Hey there, SMDBZX here, recording something that isn't Pokemon for the first time in a long time. It's been a hot minute since I've done something that isn't Pokemon. It's kind of crazy actually. Coming in with the classic, like you see the thumbnail, you see the title. Don't tell me you don't know what the video is. Um, but honestly, this might be the classic for the series. Like I think this series or the original was like my first YouTube boom. Wasn't nearly as big as my Pokemon one, but definitely my first boom. Then it was Issei 10, which, dear God, why is that so popular in every form that I make it? And then the third would be Pokemon. Someday I'm hoping to get a fourth boom, but who knows? Maybe not. I have another what if plan that I want to make, but I haven't written yet. But let's get past the intro and just go over some stuff we need to talk about since this is part 0. There is actual what if stuff here, but we need to like go over something pretty important here, and that important thing is that this is not the Dragon Ball Super timeline. This what if, we're not going over Dragon Ball Super. This is going to go over Dragon Ball GT, if I make it past the Namek Saga. Why is this important? Well, it's important because of two things. The first being is that GT is a sequel to Dragon Ball Z and not the manga. This changes many things throughout the story, including characters' power levels. But more importantly, this means that Cooler, Janemba, and Hirudegan are all canon. Well, you can make the excuse that maybe Hirudegan's not canon, but I'm going to make it canon. So we're gonna have to be very creative with how we're going to get these timelines to work. The movies themselves probably aren't going to happen, but the events are going to happen in a relative same way. So that very pre-warning out of the way, let's get started. During the time of King Piccolo, our timeline starts its change before Dragon Ball. Knowing the dangers of the Dragon Balls, King Piccolo decided he wanted to make a pair of his own. So King Piccolo made a set of 5 Dragon Balls called the Next Dragon Balls. Kami knew he couldn't allow this to happen, and just like in canon, King Piccolo was stopped. However, Kami had to do something about these Dragon Balls. The negative energy would be comparable to even that of the Black Star Dragon Balls, even if they're not nearly as powerful. Thus, Kami tried to revert their creation and dissipate it before something bad happens. However, it has an adverse effect. The negative energy of the Dragon Balls split across the planet, crystallizing themselves into negative sharite. The positive energy was left unstable and started glowing brightly, blinding the god. In the remains of the next Dragon Balls were formed, and each ball took a humanoid form. The 1-star ball was Neptune, the 2-star Noir, the 3-star Vert, 4-star Blanc, and 5-star Plutia. However, being born from a pair of Dragon Balls that was never even used, these 5 did not know that those were their names. They didn't know how to talk, didn't know how to walk, or who they were. All completely gone. And so, due to this, Kami took the 5 of them into their own hands. Worst comes to worst, they could be used to fight off King Piccolo should he ever return. The years passed and the CPU with Kami developed. However, as Kami ages, his powers decrease. The CPUs, on the other hand, don't seem to age despite their very human appearance. Kami does notice something, however, something troubling. No matter what he does, no matter how he tries, he cannot make the CPU pure of heart. Now, they aren't evil, they aren't killing people or anything, but they all have flaws which would make them, debatably, not pure of heart. Noir was rude to everyone, unable to truly show her emotions. All her friends understood this, but many people who don't know her would not. Vert was very focused and determined, but only on things she likes. Neptune's a goof and is lazy and has trouble taking anything seriously. Blanc is quiet and restrained, with a large amount of rage and a mouth to match when pushed. It would seem that Kami did not exactly purify that Dragon Ball. Plutia was quiet and slow. Her powers were even more so. When it came to the other CPU, she was by far the weakest. But Kami could sense a darker side, a side that reminded him of himself. However, he pushed it aside and hoped that that time, that personality, that side would never come. On top of all these other characteristic flaws, it was also quite often for the girls to run off. Even Noir, who was a stickler for staying and training to prepare for King Piccolo. They gained many traits and trinkets. Books, TVs, video games, and Noir stayed out a little longer trying out cosplay, although she never admitted that. However, there was one more thing they all picked up. Weapons. The five of them found out about different types of handheld weapons, something Kami saw no reason to teach, and thus the five of them started practicing with their individual weapons they took interest in. Even though Kami despised them doing so and would prefer they stayed in hand-to-hand combat. Neptune used katana, Noir used a rapier, Bert a spear, and Blanc a hammer. Yeah, Kami couldn't quite understand that one, but he just let it slide. And that's it for episode 0, which is pretty short, but it's a prologue. Episode 1 is where Dragon Ball actually starts. It's where we would start chronologically in the Dragon Ball timeline. It's where episode 1 in the original Dragon Ball XDBZ Nep, or Dragon Ball ZX Neptunia, God, would have set off. The series is going to be very different from the original. Excuse me. There's just the original had a lot of problems, okay, and we're gonna have a lot of differences just because I feel like it. That's why we're gonna have differences, because I feel like it. So thank you for watching. I've been SMDBZX, and I'm hoping that all the people who originally watched Dragon Ball ZX Neptunia, I'm assuming they're still subscribed, come to enjoy this. I also hope some of the Pokemon fans, or some of the people who came over from Pokemon, will stop by and join my What If. Be really nice. While this didn't do particularly well in consideration of my main series that everyone comes here for, I have been too lazy, well, as of the time of writing this, to record episode 7 of my Pokemon series. I might as well start typing now. Now, but past. I should probably change up this beginning section. Okay, well, basically, I wrote this like weeks ago, and I only just finished the morning of typing this, so there's that. Also, it's the winter. My sinuses are gonna be crap, so if you hear me sniffle, I apologize, but I do it unknowingly, so just future heads up. So before we start off with this, though, let's get one thing out of the way, because if one person can bring up Neptune, others can. I don't plan on adding any human characters from Neptunia. Why? Well, if you stop and actually remember, human characters don't get a lot of love in terms of fighting ability. I mean, IF has a transformation now, if I remember correctly, but how strong she realistically could get in a series where gods and Saiyans are on the top. Not that I'm using Super because it sucks ass, but the point is, we're sticking to the CPU. Theoretically, I could replace every character with Hyperdimension Neptunia characters. There's enough of them to go around. But, it's what if Neptunia was in Dragon Ball Z, and I already had episode 0, so, there's that. But, that's the last thing I have to mention. We're going to continue with the actual What If. Our story starts off with Dragon Ball, where Goku climbs up Kami's lookout. There, he plans to meet the God of Earth, and instead runs into something quite different. A small boy was running away from a guy with a butt on their chest, while another little boy and a boy with even bigger butt on their chest were drinking with someone all... Okay, that's weird. Our story starts off with Dragon Ball, where Goku climbs up Kami's lookout. There, he plans to meet the God of Earth, and instead runs into something quite different. A small boy is running away with a guy that had a butt on their chest, with another little boy and a boy with an even bigger butt on their chest was drinking with a third boy and a black man who kind of looked like a genie. Goku is quite confused at the sight, and eventually catches everyone's attention. Goku asked if any of them were the god of Earth, and in fact asked if the blonde boy with long hair was indeed the god of Earth. After all, with powerful golden hair and biceps that big, their power had to be huge. Bert found this a little embarrassing, and Blanc was offended. Noir was confused, and Neptune was laughing at Goku's naivety. They explain who they are, along with Popo, and Goku is even more excited. When training with Roshi, he only had Krillin to train with, but with the God of Earth, he found 4 really weird people to train with, and he wants to meet the God of Earth as well. However, he's caught off guard when it looks like the God of Earth is in fact King Piccolo. The specifics of Goku's training isn't too important. What is important is to know that his gains are much greater here than they are in canon, and he learns a lot more. Popo and Kami teach Goku the way of Ki, sparing lives, and the energy that flows around him. Vert taught him the importance of loving his big sister, who was Vert's. Neptune taught him that Toriyama was slowly becoming a worse writer. However, Goku was unable to quite understand what she meant by this. Blanc furthered his reading and writing skills. He made it to be around the 3rd or 4th grade level of education. It wasn't exactly smart, but Goku could at least count 10 million zeni without a hand now. And Noir taught him the importance of hard work and friendship, at least in spirit. Goku appreciated the effort, but just ignored that Noir really wanted more friends. And then Goku taught all the CPUs about his adventures around the world and places he's been, the World Tournament, and more. They were all intrigued and honestly really excited to get out in the world themselves. But while Goku was hanging out with the girls and training, his brain kept going back to something. No, it was someone. In a word. He asked his friends about it, and they offered to help if he could remember. Was it Mirage? No. Mary? Wait, no, Marriage. It was Marriage. Everyone had a different reaction, but the most important ones were Vert's and Neptune's. Vert told him to immediately forget the word, while Neptune got a suspiciously trolly face. She explained marriage to Goku in a slightly manipulative way, and told Goku that if he should marry anyone, it should be her. Vert, however, kept the young Goku out of Neptune's grasp, and told him that no matter the implication, the only person her baby Goku would ever marry was herself. Goku, on the other hand, didn't quite understand any of this and let them fight, like a ferocious dragon and tiger. Finally, enough time passes for the World Martial Arts Tournament's arrival. The CPU were all originally excited to join, hearing the fascinating tales of Goku. However, after realizing how weak the competition is, they let Goku do his thing. Needless to say, Goku sweeps this tournament with no effort. Piccolo's actually flabbergasted, but we can ignore that part. CPU, Goku, Chi-Chi. Who does he end up with? Chi-Chi does remind Goku about who she is and the promise he made. Vert, however, after giving Chi-Chi a death glare, scared her away. Vert didn't scare Neptune, however, who convinced Goku she's a better option, and it would be weird. She even promises that she'll grow boobs if Goku does so, and he doesn't quite understand why he'd care about that, but he shrugs and agrees to marry her, making Chi-Chi very upset and heartbroken. And of course, making Vert secretly want to kill Neptune. And thus, the tournament ends. Neptune claims Goku for herself, and has another fight with Vert, which Neptune wins. Before we continue, we're going over some power levels, since you probably want to know why I skipped over the Piccolo fight entirely. That's because it's not even a fight in this continuity. To be honest, picking a power level here is practically impossible. There's so many variables with the CPU. The years of training they have, motivation, the type of training they're doing, the amount of time they've been alive, and the fact you get stronger training with others. I don't think the CPU are reaching anywhere near the 100,000s though. Simply put, the best way to get stronger in Dragon Ball is to know that someone is stronger than you. And there just simply isn't anyone that the CPU are aware of that are stronger than them. This would stunt their growth immensely. And of course, there's Goku, who would get the, quote, goal boost, if you would call it that. There are multiple ways to judge his power level.
In canon, he grew about 3 to 4 times. However, Goku was alone back then, and the strongest on the planet for all he knew. The humans increased their power by 6 to 8 times during their training during the Saiyan Saga. They only had Raditz as a staging boy, and Goku has 3 times that amount of time to train. So where does that leave us with power levels? I think the CPU by the 23rd World Martial Arts Tournament would be reaching the 15,000 mark. Of course, this could be completely changed depending on your viewpoint, but I think it's fine for story purposes. This would then raise Goku's power level massively over the 3 years he's training with Kami. I'll then bring Goku's power level to 47,000, which is just over 18 times stronger than he was before the training. And now this is where things are going to be dramatically different. And we also have to ask some questions. Is Gohan born? How strong is everybody at this point? Does Raditz fight? Does he become a good boy? Well, maybe. If any what if is wrote well enough that it could happen, maybe this one. I honestly hate the idea of good boy Raditz in most situations, but this one could possibly work, just maybe. Don't get your hopes up though, it's not a guarantee. Raditz would show up on the planet and attack multiple power levels, almost 20,000. A power level approaching 10,000, a power level over 5,000, and 3 more power levels, which are almost 2,000. Raditz's arm would be getting a little heavier because he knows he's screwed. And thus, using a scouter, he would go to the highest power level he can find, because what was he supposed to do? Go to Vegeta and die? He arrives at Capsule Corp and is immediately greeted in the air by Noir. Raditz is shocked because this is clearly not Kakarot, but it's the highest power level on the planet. He thought maybe his brother was being merciful, but now he feared for his brother's life. He asks where Kakarot is, and Noir tells him that she's never heard of him. Raditz would then leave, and Noir feels like she should pursue, but she has far too much paperwork to do with her new job at Capsule Corp. He then arrives at the mountains, where he's greeted by 2 more people. Well, 3. They're a little on edge, but for the most part, relaxed, as they're much stronger than Raditz. If he were to try to attack, they would catch his punch easily, or deflect his blast, whatever he tried to do. But it was his brother Kakarot, with a purple-haired lady who was much stronger, and a small yellow-haired girl. This, of course, being Goku, Neptune with Boobas, and their child, Pishi. Wait, how did... Neither of them have yellow hair. How the hell did Pishi get created? How does Neptune have boobs? Plot convenience, that's how. But also, Pishi has black hair in this universe. For now, at least. And I'm probably not going to be able to show you a PNG for this recording. If I do, it'll be here on screen. But you probably won't see it until part 2, episode 2. Yeah, so sorry about that. But the not-so-menacing Raditz has arrived. Will he fight his brother and die horrifically? Will Raditz get a collar, a pat in the head, and become a good boy? Find out next time on Dragon Ball Z! God knows how long that's actually going to be, since SMDBZX takes forever to write these things.
Raditz faces his family. What he would consider his technical family. He asked what Kakarot was doing with Earthling scum, and why they were not turned to ash. Goku is then told who he is, why he came there, and other such things that he was told in canon. Goku thanks Raditz for the information, but tells him that he needs to buzz off and that he isn't going to be nice. Raditz counts to 3. Before he can attack Goku, Goku flattens the Saiyan. Goku tells Raditz that he won't kill him, but if he threatens the Earth, he will. Raditz then retreats into the wild, leaving Goku and his family on their own to train once again. Raditz would contact his Saiyan comrades and explain what happened. He also mentions how there are multiple power levels of 15,000 or higher. Nappa and Vegeta are shocked. Power like that, they may be able to take on the Ginyu Force. Also, how did they get so strong on a backwater planet? It made no sense, and they told Raditz to lay low. This doesn't mean Vegeta likes Raditz. He's mad at Raditz for being so useless and is definitely debating killing him. But Raditz had no way to win, so there was no reason for him to try either. After all, he'd just be wasting a life.
And thus the year passes, and no one expects the Saiyans. So let's go over power levels at the end of the 1 year time skip. Because everyone is training and getting stronger still, just not to the extent we would think. Let's go over that. Neptune gets the smallest boost due to her training partners being much weaker and having no, what we call a goal boost. Goku and Pishi, on the other hand, not only have a goal boost, but they have a really strong training partner. Especially Pishi, who gets a higher boost due to being a hybrid. The other CPU haven't been training. They've been implementing themselves in daily life, not in the woods training like Neptune and Goku. So their power levels have actually gotten lower. Piccolo's had a goal boost for 6 years, but no training partner. While he's much stronger than the humans, he's not nearly as strong as Goku. And of course, the humans aren't nearly as strong as anyone else in the story, since they aren't aware of the Saiyans showing up. And they don't go up the Kami's lookout either, because there is no planetary threat. Kami isn't worried about the state of the planet or the world. He's quite confident the CPU, Goku, can take on any threat that appears. After all, they're so absurdly strong. The year passes and the Z Fighters sense the Saiyans' arrivals, except for the humans, since they can't sense Ki at this moment. Raditz heads to the crash site, along with the CPU and Piccolo. He was curious about what was going on. Saiyans see Kakarot, the multiple CPUs, and the Mechian introduce themselves, giving them an ultimatum. Join them to defeat Frieza, or die. They don't know who Frieza is, but they make it clear that they aren't going to lay a finger on the Earth. Vegeta smirks and says, "So be it." He tells Raditz to go first, and Piccolo steps up. He says he wants to test his abilities, and the others allow it. It's not like they particularly care, Piccolo, outside his link to the Dragon Balls anyways. So what do they care if he gets himself hurt? Piccolo actually does really well here. While Raditz is for sure more powerful, he doesn't have the skill or energy sensing techniques that Piccolo has, and thus Piccolo has the upper hand. Eventually through the fight, Vegeta calls it, belittling Raditz and telling Nappa he's up next. He concludes the Mechian was useless to him, and he couldn't handle Raditz, so Nappa could go and finish the job. Remember, Vegeta does not know about the Dragon Balls here. Next up is Nappa, as I said, going to fight Piccolo, but of course, the Z Fighters aren't going to let Piccolo die, and well, you can take a guess at what's going to happen to Nappa here. Afterwards, Neptune fought Vegeta, and immediately Neptune is actually on the back foot. We might be wondering how close this match is, if Neptune is about as powerful as Vegeta, but you have to consider, Neptune has never been in an equal fight, ever in her life. She has trained with the CPUs, and when they were equals, yes, but Neptune has never been in an actual fight where she had to try. In the end, Vegeta outclasses her. Vegeta says that if this is their best, he might as well scorch the planet, but the other CPUs get involved. Again, they're not nearly as skilled as Vegeta, but 3-on-1, with them being as powerful as they are, Vegeta doesn't stand a chance without turning to a Great Ape. And if he tried to turn to a Great Ape, the likelihood of them destroying the moon and attacking him is fairly high. So, no, Vegeta doesn't end up winning, but he's definitely stronger and more skilled than Neptune. After defeating Frieza and recovering enough to speak, he proceeds to tell them about Frieza and what Frieza's done. The Z-Fighters honestly don't care, as they have no connection to Frieza or space, and that's where they're wrong. The Saiyans have been there, on Earth, and eventually Frieza is going to learn something when the planet has not been sold. So, in a way, this was kind of a setup to force them to help the Saiyans. After debating on what to do, they decided that they need to train for this Frieza guy if Vegeta is terrified of him, since Vegeta eclipses most of the Z-Fighters in strength. However, they're not too worried. I mean, they have multiple ways to train, multiple people to train with. How powerful could this Frieza guy be? And so the HDD training arc begins. Unfortunately, the video ends here. Pretty early for me, but what a video. Again, I wanted to get the whole Saiyan arc in one episode, but I really, like I said, while writing this, I was still depressed. Didn't really have the motivation to do anything. Honestly, I'm not happy with this episode, but aside from being more descriptive, maybe, and like writing out the battles a little bit. I don't see how I could have written this any better. It's kind of awkward, and again, I'm not happy with it, but it's the best I can do. So, thank you for watching. The next part will be at, alright, how about, 10 likes, and I will make part 3 to, well, this is episode 3, part 4 of, Dragon Ball ZX Neptunia Rebirth, because this is the remake. Yeah, catch you next time. See ya. Hey everyone, SMDBZX here, and welcome back after a long time to the 4th installment of DBZX Never Rebirth. With the Saiyans defeated, what will happen now? After the Saiyans heal, they get a Zenkai boost, but their power rankings are pretty much the same. Everyone is training intensely for the next year, and within this time, Pichi surpasses most of the Saiyans, the exception being Vegeta. Going in terms of top 10, we have 5 CPUs, Vegeta, Goku, Pichu, Nappa, Raditz, and then Piccolo. Then following up behind them would be the humans. Although there are massive power gaps within the top 10, so keep that in mind. After that year though, a spaceship touches down. Frieza sent the Ginyu Force to Earth along with a small army. The humans, Piccolo, Raditz, and Nappa take on the soldiers, including Kui. While Goku, Vegeta, and the CPU take on the Ginyu Force, most of them are taken out quite easily. Pichi takes on Goldo, Goku, Raccoon, Vegeta, Jace, and Birder, and then CPU have to team up to beat Captain Ginyu. Vegeta informs that the Ginyu Force are far weaker than Frieza, which made everyone concerned. He also estimated it would take Frieza a week to get there, so they weren't sure how they could possibly do this. That's when the CPU remembered something: the hyperbolic time chamber. The power they could attain would be massive. However, the CPU had already used up all their time. No problem. Kami could just upgrade it. After recovering his youth with Shenron, Kami removed the time limit, and thus everyone went in pairs. First was Noir and Plutia, then Block and Vert, Neptune and Pichi, Vegeta and Nappa, Goku and Raditz, Piccolo and Tien, and finally, Krillin and Yamcha. Chaozu decided there's no need for him to try, he'd just get in the way, which, come on, let's be honest, that was true. The Z-Fighters all arrive and find Frieza, plus some men who are all fodderized easily. Frieza would want to destroy these pests, but see no reason to leave his first form. Frieza is stronger than the humans and about on par with Piccolo. Everyone else, however, was far stronger than Frieza. However, he did not know this. Noir and Blanc weren't in the mood to mess around, so they rushed Frieza, and before he could transform even once, they killed the Tyrant. Of course, it wasn't super quickly, but both of them were about twice as powerful as Frieza in his first form. Saiyans were generally pissed off. They wanted to fight Frieza, but they didn't care. Vegeta did warn them, however, this wasn't the end. They still had King Cold and Cooler out there, his father and brother, who were much more powerful than Frieza. However, Vegeta was confident in his strength, unlike the CPUs who all had to team up because they were scared. No, Vegeta was a Saiyan warrior, and him and his Saiyan warriors, even had it, which for him, that's like God descending upon him. Vegeta giving him a compliment, being a Saiyan warrior, crazy. They wanted to go on the offensive. Everyone here was a pansy ass, so he took the 3 Saiyans and left. No one really cared though, since they didn't like the Saiyans. Although they were worried if these people truly were leagues above Frieza, they'd be in trouble. They asked Kami, but he has nothing else to teach them. And with the Dragon Balls in stone, there was no one to ask. There was no way to get stronger from what they knew, aside from the very little training they could do outside the time chamber. So, what were they going to do? How were they going to prepare for these oh-so-powerful threats if they were even more powerful than Frieza? When would they show up? They just didn't know. And that's where we'll end part 1, because I'm gonna be honest, I can't get part 2 done in time. Like, even if I started right now, like, while I was reading this segment. So, part 2 will be released likely tomorrow, and then I'm gonna combine them together and upload them and put that into the playlist. So, thank you for watching. I've been SMDBZX, and I will get the other half of this script done later. Goodbye. During the time after Frieza things calmed down, Goku and Neptune, along with Pichi and Plutia, were living peaceful. And of course, training. Tommy got tired of Plutia living with him and wanted her to live with more people. Plus, her and Peachy got along beautifully, wonderfully, fatally even better than she did with her parents, so it wasn't really a thing that the two of them would argue. Not to mention, Plutia and Neptune are sisters in this timeline. One day when training, Peachy and Neptune were having a hardcore fight. However, Neptune had the advantage. In the spur of the moment, Peachy had the strategy of, let's punch it really, really hard. During this process of powering up, she began glowing and it exploded into a bright light. This sent Neptune, Plutia, and Goku flying as her power skyrocketed. Every Z-Fighter across the globe completely stopped in shock and awe at what they were sensing. The power boost was massive. As the light dissipated, standing there was what seemed to be a new person, Yellowheart, as we know her. She then completely speed bleached Neptune before they had a chance to process what was going on, and declared herself the winner of the fight. Slowly, as their jobs came to the end, everyone came over to see what the hell was going on. Except Noir, who called because she never had free time. Well, let's be honest, it's Noir. They were all shocked at Peachy's power, but more so her appearance. Not only did she put Mert's pride and joy to shame, and insulting Blanc even more so, and looked like an adult, aside from her still childish demeanor. Not to mention the giant-ass claws they came out of, I don't know, somewhere when she transformed, made out of some material she's never seen before. Aside from that, though, she was quite cocky and overconfident in her abilities in this form. She seemed an awful lot like Vegeta. Sure, she still had her childish traits, and they were dialed up quite a bit, but she was debatably even more egotistical than Vegeta, and this was kind of concerning to Goku and Neptune. But considering her power had grew 100-fold, yes, 100-fold, this is equivalent to Super Saiyan 2 if you don't believe in the Mastered Super Saiyan theory, that was to be expected. She was the most powerful person in the universe as far as I know. Peachy didn't deform until sometime in her sleep, where she returned back to her normal attitude and power. Neptune and Goku then had to discuss what that was. They doubted it was from Goku's side of the genes, his species turned into giant monkeys according to Vegeta. But it's not like Neptune was born. CPU were created from the Dragon Balls, so only Shenron would truly know what was going on. Some more time passes after this event, with them just having to shrug it off and just hope they figure it out. And King Cold appeared. They knew Vegeta was right. Frieza didn't even compare to 1% of this guy's power. They're very aware that Peachy is the only one who will beat this guy. No problem, being the crossbreed between the most powerful alien race of gods. Or goddess, if you consider them that. Then again, they don't have god keys, so maybe they're not goddess either. But anyway, seeing how Peachy was their only option, they let her go out. Sensing this guy's power, sensing what they sensed from Peachy before all the training before now. They didn't have anything to worry about as far as they were concerned. King Cole mocks the small child, committing her, I'm gonna keep that in, complimenting her at her power despite being so small. But then Peachy turns to the Yellowheart and sends him flying with a kick to a mountain. King Cole would then get more serious, seeing as how he might have to actually try to fight with this battle. Trying to fight. That's where we're ending it here, though. We're going to save the rest of this for part 5. I know it's still short, but added together, it'd be approaching the normal length of a What If. I'm already late with this one. I've been busy recently and playing Gundam Battle Operation 2, which I'm uploading to the other channel. Yeah, it is a little bit my fault, isn't it? Yeah. I'll see you next time, though. See ya. Yellowheart and King Cold clash through the skies, while the rest of the Z-Fighters helplessly watch. Yellowheart not only had the power advantage, but a high skill advantage as well, including the ability to sense King Cold's ki. King Cold is the fiercest opponent she's faced, and her childish personality didn't help her in the fight, however. At one point, King Cold asked her to let him power up, and Yellowheart was actually going to let him do so. However, most of the group was pretty damn clear that she was not about to do that. So, Yellowheart, after a long fight, ended up killing Cold with a Kamehameha before he could transform. If he could transform. And this what if we're going off the presumption he can, because I have the power to do that and you don't. After this, however, she deforms out of exhaustion back to Pishi. She has a well-earned rest. However, Goku and Neptune aren't exactly happy. Well, they're happy she's so strong, but neither of them are exactly happy about sending their child into a death match with Alien. So the next morning, Neptune leaves Pishi at home with Plutia, and the two of them leave for the hyperbolic lion tamer. Inside, the two train intensely, wanting to surpass Pishi during this time. Neptune transforms into Purple Heart, but Goku does not turn into a Super Saiyan. After all, he has no idea the form even exists, and unlike other YouTubers, I'm not going to say that Goku can just learn Super Saiyan by training. He needs intense rage, and he honestly does not have that. Now, for those who don't know, I'm assuming you know if you're watching this series, but in case you don't know, Purple Heart is much more serious than Neptune. And flirty. Training's not the only thing that happened in that hyperbolic time chamber, so I'll leave that to your imagination. A few months after Goku and Neptune leave the time chamber, or, well, Purple Heart, a boy named Gohan is born, and 3 years later, Goku gets sick. They're unable to find a cure, and Goku dies of a heart virus, leaving Neptune widowed with Pishi and Gohan. Or they would be if Neptune didn't use common sense and said, hey, why don't we use the Dragon Balls to cure him? Because the Dragon Balls' only restriction is that he can't revive people of natural causes. He can restore sicknesses, we see him do it in Dragon Ball Super. I mean, I'm just saying. I mean, I know the Dragon Balls were upgraded by then, but I doubt Dende stopped and thought, maybe I should give Shenron the power to restore illness. That seems like something that'll definitely come in handy in the future. Yeah, don't think he was thinking about that, since they only use the Dragon Balls to revive dead people, which happens way too often. The reason Goku's heart virus was so bad in canon was because he went Super Saiyan. But in the future timeline, everyone had time to gather around because they knew Goku was going to make it. If they have time to diagnose the sickness, gather around his house, wait for Goku to die, and also diagnose that they don't have the medicine to cure Goku, I'm pretty sure they could have gathered the Dragon Balls. Besides, Pishi is the zoomiest ADHD empowered child in the universe. She could travel across the world and get those Dragon Balls faster than anyone in canon could. And, as I said, Shenron's rule with sickness is that he can't revive people who died of natural causes. There really is no issue to be had here. And let's be honest, the reason Goku died in canon is because Toriyama doesn't know how to write a good story without him. Also, without a shit ton of plot conveniences. But, you know, let's ignore that. Goku lives in this timeline. That is the point. That is what I'm trying to tell you. A few months after Goku's heart virus, a few miles north of West City, a city is attacked. Piccolo's the first to arrive, and against him were a pair of teenagers with unsensible powers, androids 17 and 18. Piccolo began to fight them, however, he is very quickly defeated. We gotta remember here, not only did Piccolo not die in this timeline, they never went to Namek. So, Piccolo has never, ever fused with Nail or Kami. So the fact he never went to King Kai's or done fusion means this Piccolo is weaker than the one in canon by quite a bit. In fact, I'm gonna do power levels later and you'll see just quite how weak he is. And, yeah, you know, he doesn't stand a chance. In fact, the only reason he survives as a counter is because the human Z-Fighters appear to distract the androids while he gets away, but they are also very swiftly defeated. After this, Goku, Neptune, Pishi, and Raditz arrive. Uncle Raditz is a pretty good guy. Not good guy. Cool guy. Cool guy, not good guy. I don't do good boy Raditz. I don't think that's possible. He is here by matter of circumstance and dealing with it, because he has nowhere better to stay. Also, because he kind of likes Pishi. He's grown a soft spot for the strong little girl, but we'll ignore that for now. And before the fighting begins, Vegeta and Nappa also appear. 17 and 18 explain that they are androids made by Dr. Gero and the Red Ribbon Army. Piccolo is taken away by the humans, who fly off, them not being able to sense energies of pain, but Vegeta tells them to sit down and move out of the way, because he's going to turn around and slap them with his giant monkey. He will show them his true power. And then Vegeta is covered in a bright golden light as he transforms into a Super Saiyan. That's right, Vegeta is the first to transform to a Super Saiyan on this timeline. His rage towards Kakarot caused him to transform while training with Nappa, and thus he gets the first round with the androids. But even though he far surpasses Piccolo, he's still far too weak to fight the androids. Before they can kill Vegeta though, Yellow Heart drop kicks Android 17, and before 18 could jump her, Purple Heart launches 18 through quite a few buildings. Let's quickly go over power levels, because I'll keep you keeping track of them throughout the whole series. And by that, I mean I'm going to post them in the comments, because for once I'm not for like the first time in this whole script pretty much, I'm not improvising off of what I already wrote. A lot of this is improvised, by the way. So with those power levels down below, and you seeing how weak Piccolo is in this timeline, Android 17 and Yellow Heart have a pretty even fight. Purple Heart, on the other hand, is rather bored. Purple Heart defeats 18 very easily, and 17 is actually winning a little bit, which is shocking since this would be one of, if not the first time, Pishi was losing. Purple Heart, seeing her child in trouble, jumps in and defeats 17 very swiftly. With the two being shaken, Purple Heart gives them an ultimatum: quit being evil or die. It's quite simple. The androids agree and leave. Vegeta is quite nettled, even more so than the halfling in Neptune being stronger than him as a Super Saiyan, but whatever, he'll deal with it, he guess. Whatever. Goku would confront Vegeta about this for him, but Vegeta would refuse to tell Goku about it, besides that, I'm the legendary Super Saiyan Kakarot blah blah Saiyan pride blah blah. He is the prince after all. However, over the 7 years, because there is a 7-year time skip after this, Vegeta would lament. Goku wouldn't be a challenge if he couldn't transform to a Super Saiyan after all. And over those 7 years, Goku, Nappa, Vegeta, and even Gohan obtain and master the Super Saiyan form. And also Raditz, but I didn't write him in the script here for some reason. I guess I just forgot. And by the way, I will not be making Master Super Saiyan a 500 times multiplier in this series. Even though I do think that's what it should be. I'm in the camp that Master Super Saiyan should be at least as strong as Ultra Super Saiyan, or Super Saiyan Grade 3, or a Steroid Super Saiyan, whatever you want to call it. I'm keeping it lower at a normal 50 times multiplier for the ease of math. Oh, and Trunks is also born in this timeline, making him Gohan's best friend in this, this timeline. Unlike in canon, though, Gohan's not going to be a little Trunks simp, as I like to call Goten, because Gohan is older and probably a lot stronger. And that'll be it for this part. What happens over the 7-year time gap will be covered in the next part. However, there is one thing I do want to cover before the video ends, that is in the timeline, in the comments down below. Out of the time of the androids, Pishi is 10 years old. She is going to be 17 during the Buu Saga. So, yeah, I gotta find like a render of her being older. Either that, or I say that at some point in training, HDD becomes permanent. Something like that. I don't know. I'm not sure. But, I guess I'll figure that out next time. Maybe. Possibly. I might figure it out next time. Maybe. Who knows? Is there gonna be a next time? You better get this video to 10 likes if you want a part 6. Because, you know what? I'm not even gonna be mad. I'm proud. Even though I am getting lazy with this series, as I tend to do with most series after a while, because, I get bored. The last series ended on Namek. Actually, the first DBZX Nep series was quite... it was quite different from this one, let me tell you. If you have not seen it, it is like an entirely different journey. And we spent a lot of time on Dragon Ball. But, last time we ended in the Frieza Saga, and we've made it to the Android Saga. So even if you don't get the like the video to 10 likes for me to write part 6, I'm really hammering home that the 10 likes thing, aren't I? How many times can I tell you to make the like button? 10. I just told you again. What about now? I'm gonna tell you one more time just for the meme. Get this video the 10 likes. Are you getting tired of me talking yet? This video should have ended by now, but it isn't. It's not over. I am still talking. Isn't that wild? Isn't it wild that I am still talking? Wait, how long ago did the what if end? I don't know. I'm making the video longer. I'm at 1,000 subscribers now. I gotta get that 10 minute mark, get that ad revenue. I can't actually get paid by YouTube yet, so you know, there's that. But yeah, as I was saying, because we're gonna keep. Why am I still? I'm gonna keep this in the video, by the way. I'm keeping this in the video. I don't know why I'm still talking. I really don't. Well, now I lost track of where I was. Thank you for everyone who has been around since the original series, I guess. I know one of you, I forgot your name, but you have hearts as a PFP, from what I remember. You have been around since episode 1 of the original series. Shout out to you. If I remember your name, I'll pin your comment down below if I remember you. Alright, I'm gonna actually end the video now. Bye. A few months later, after Goku lives from his heart virus, a few miles north of West City, a city is attacked. Piccolo's the first to arrive, and against him were a pair of teenagers with unsensible power. Remember, Piccolo has not fused with Tommy or Nail, and he also hasn't died and gone to King Kai's. This Piccolo... Oh, whoa, excuse me. I'm not gonna... you know what? I will cut that out. Hello, welcome back to Dragon Ball ZX Neptunia. You guys like go really quickly, and as per usual, it takes 10 likes to hit the next part, so that's what I'm doing right now. Quickly, as you guys can probably notice, this part's shorter than normal. I was writing it, and I hit the nearly 4-page section. You know, I normally write 5 pages. What is? It's about the 10-minute mark, give or take the size of the paragraphs. I want to increase the sizes, but I wouldn't get them done in a week. So, you know, that's just on me and my limitations as a person. But, yeah, I just didn't want to get into I didn't want to get further into the Buu Saga, or I should say to the Buu Saga, you'll see what I mean, as I got to the end of this part, so we can call this a filler episode. How about that? But, you know, like goal is still the same, though, because gotta make sure people like the series, you know what I mean? So, hey, hit that 10 like goal. If you don't hit it, I'm not making another part. And it should be pretty clear by now. Anyway, see you there. After the battle with the androids, Pichu begins attending school. Bulma had to help since neither Goku nor Neptune are educated or have any idea how to get educated. Thus, she goes to a school in West City. Rest in peace, Fidel. You probably getting shot out in the street, not gonna lie. Of course, she still trains with her father and very rarely her mother, but not nearly as much as she did before her studies. School is stressful and it takes time. Over the 6 years, Pichis would also get older, similarly to her mother, unlike the other CPU. They still weren't sure why that was, but genetics, they guessed. Maybe she had some type of recessive gene. Although, funnily enough, she looked more like Vert than Neptune. They knew this beforehand, but now she was an adult, it was it was a lot more obvious, if you know what I mean. Funny how that works, though, considering Vert needs to baby her little brother, and Neptune getting pissed off over that. If you remember earlier in the series, I don't think I need to explain that. But, hey, you know what? If I do, go back and watch the earlier parts. I need the watch time anyways, right? As I mentioned before in the last part, over the 7-year time skip, Gohan would have been grown and different from the Gohan we know in canon. He doesn't have as much of an academic worry as Canon Gohan, but it's more than Goten. It's about as much academic study as a normal person. But he much prefers training, just like Pishi. He actually becomes a Super Saiyan relatively quickly, and the same can be said about Trunks. And within 2 years, all the Saiyans have become Super Saiyans and surpassed Piccolo. Boys, most notably. Pishi tried to become a Super Saiyan, but she couldn't. Maybe it was because her hair was already blonde, or maybe it's because the same reason that Gohan can't go HDD. It's just, they couldn't. Maybe only male Saiyans could turn Super Saiyan, and only females could use HDD. They weren't really sure why, they just knew that for one reason or another, after all this time training, they were positive that Gohan could not use his CPU abilities that are in his blood, and Pishi could not use her Saiyan abilities in her blood. Maybe this would be explained to them further, or maybe they'd figure out, but as of right now, it didn't really matter. Around the 3rd year, the other CPU had unlocked HDD, surpassing the Saiyans once again. However, Ludia was a very, very special case, as I'm sure you all know. She did turn HDD, however, her personality took a complete 180. Yes, there was Blanc, her aggressiveness became more notable, Neptune became more mature, and there was Bert, who was actually pretty normal, now that I think about it, but Noir became more of a tsundere. But for the most part, they were the same person. Iris Heart, on the other hand, just was not. He just wasn't like Bishi at all. She's a sadistic and masochistic woman and is very flirtatious with old Goku, which is just like Vert. Is a problem. You're adding a. We already have a dragon, a tiger. What's next? A wyvern? Is Iris Heart a wyvern? I don't know, but she's something. She's something in that 3-way duel between the tiger, dragon, and something else. She's in there now. But more than that, she's become a bad influence on old PKO and Gohan. Nothing too bad, just small things here and there, like asking if they're going to put the milk in before the cereal. Although Iris Heart would never do that. She's not a monster. She's a bit of a troublemaker, but she's not evil. Come on, if you comment down below if you put milk in for the cereal, because I'm going to block you immediately. Just get out of here. I'm going off script now, but just get out of here. Now, if her turning HED every once in a while wasn't an issue, or that is to say, only happened every so often, then there wouldn't be a problem. But the problem was that Iris Heart was not turning back to Plutia, which was even more confusing. You have Gohan not being able to turn HDD, you have Neptune and Pishi being the only CPUs aging, and then we have Iris Heart who just isn't turning back at all. They thought it might have been like Pishi, where when she first turned HDD, she was HDD all day before getting worn out, but Iris Heart just completely slept through the rest of the day and was still Iris Heart when they woke up in the morning. It's a lot to take in, but something that the Sun household is going to have to live with, to Neptune's dismay. During the 4th year in the 7-year time skip, Yamcha gave up fighting. And this shouldn't be surprising thing, you'd say. Fighting was never his thing, and he was always getting his ass kicked. But that's when he finally gave up. Pishi had also entered high school, of course, because she turned 14. It was during this time that Neptune also gave up on her training. Not exactly give up, but she was discovering things she liked more than training. She's slowly becoming more and more like the normal Neptune we know. Like in video games and pudding, things she already liked, but past time went on, and the Earth wasn't constantly in danger, and Goku had someone else to train, kids. She just became less interested. And really, we can't blame her. She spent so many years training with Kami that, oh, maybe she just wants her life to be different. And it's not like the other CPU have been training as hard as she has anyways. None of them has been in the time chamber. Goku didn't even tell them. But suffice to say, or as Pishi was trying to get smarter, Neptune was just lazy. And then in the 5th year, nothing notable happens. Now, Pishi goes to her 2nd year of high school, but we really don't care about that too much now, do we? And then finally, we reached the 6th year in our 7-year time skip. As Pishi was walking home from school one day, a mysterious pair of men approached her. Her immediate reactions were stranger danger, as her mother and aunt taught her, and attempted to throw some hands. However, surprisingly, they held their own, giving Pishi a "Nani?" moment. She soon learned that she had just attacked a god. I mean, she didn't give a dog's ass. She fought aliens, androids, abominations, monkey men, and women who can grow bustier, with the exception of one of them getting smaller. But a god was just another to the hit list. They described themselves as the Supreme Tai and his assistants. But bluntly, they were aware of Pishi's accomplishments of taking out Frieza and King Cold, and a number of other higher power levels. Pishi wanted them to get to the point, and they explained that there would soon be a great evil on Earth. Even though they didn't know where exactly it was, they knew it was on Earth. In this timeline, they learned it early, just not the exact location. They know Boo is there, but not where. And they have no way to find out. Pishi understands and assures the two of them she is easily in the top 10 strongest in the universe, and the two gods are very surprised. Only top 10? Pishi explains that her mother, father, Vegeta, and the other CPUs, and her second mom / aunt Iris Heart were all stronger than her now. The Supreme Kai of Time met with all the Z fighters and explained to them that none of them were strong enough to defeat Babdia's forces, i.e. Deborah. Pishi shrugged and didn't really care because she's always been stronger than she needed to be in the past, never really having a true fight until King Cold. But the Supreme Kai agreed to train all the Z fighters regardless, that way they were strong enough. However, there were far too many of them. So CPU were taken off their planet, since Iris Heart is the strongest there, and the rest of the CPU might as well go with her to all get similar gangs, while the Saiyans would find some way to train there on Earth. The humans of Piccolo, well, they were pretty irrelevant, if I'm being honest. Or were they? We'll find out more about that in the next part. And that's it for this episode. Like I said, I know it's a little short, but it allows me to explain a few things with next art, and it also gives me a few excuses. Also, because you'll find out in the blooper episode, I completely freelanced that last paragraph that I read off. The screenshot you saw with the power levels on the screen, or power scaling. I had to get rid of power levels because there's a lot of math that I didn't feel like doing. I'm being honest here. It's pure laziness. But, yeah, the Piccolo comment was, completely pulled out of my ass. So, yeah, sorry that this is a little shorter than usual, but I want to be on the ball, and remember, if you saw my post that I made on the community tab, I post a lot of things over the community tab, you would see that I have to write the Ben 10 What If next, and that's going to take a little bit longer to write than normal. So, that is that. Until next time, amigos. Bye-bye. Hey there, SMDBZX here, and welcome to the next and possibly final part of What If Neptunia was in Dragon Ball Z Rebirth. I gotta say, this is definitely the final part of the DBZ section. However, we'll get to that at the end of the video. You already know what to do. Like and leave a comment down below telling me how much you love me. I mean, my series. Yeah, that's what I meant. Anyways, to see you there. Over the time on Supreme Kai's, a lot happened. For starters, every Saiyan gained Super Saiyan 2. Either Cop to Goku, while Nappa and Raditz are dead even. Purple Heart also caught up to the main CPU, however, Iris Heart is still above them. And of course, above all of them is Yellow Heart, who's been training with the Z Sword as just, normal Pishi. Though she doesn't like it because she's more of a claws person than a sword person. During her training, she broke the Z Sword and unleashed the Elder Kai. And when she did, he said, hey, I could do a ritual to unlock your full potential. And she's like, I bet. And so, that's what she did. She's basically become the ultimate Pishi. That's either a Dragon Ball term or Ben 10 term. I'll let you decide. Power scaling turns to something like this. You have Ultimate Pishi, who's as powerful as Buhan. And I know this is going to sound ridiculous, and how is she so powerful? Well, it's pretty simple. First of all, she has more potential than Gohan. She has been training as a CPU and a Saiyan. That's her blood. She's not human. CPUs are more powerful than humans. They're even more compatible than before. And thus, over time, Pishi, has gained even more potential. On top of all that, Pishi has actually been training most of her life. She did slack off a little bit once she entered high school, but Gohan slacked off his whole life, so it gave him more room. After that, we have Iris Heart, who I haven't exactly determined where exactly she is in the power scale, but she's nowhere near as powerful as Pishi. Then we have the CPU, and we have Super Saiyan 2 Goku and Vegeta, who are actually only as powerful as Perfect Cell. If you remember correctly, Goku entered the time chamber with Neptune very early on. And on top of that, he never went to Otherworld, which really slandered his training. Vegeta also caught up, but he was, he never entered the time chamber, period. So it took him much longer to catch up to Goku. We have Raditz and Nappa, who are tied together as Super Saiyan 2s. Obviously, everyone mentioned here is below Perfect Cell, as Goku and Vegeta are on par with a theoretical Perfect Cell. And then we have Super Saiyan 2 Gohan and Trunks. Piccolo and the humans would be under them. As normal Super Saiyans, Piccolo is above Gohan and Trunks, but as Super Saiyan 2s, they surpass Piccolo. And we're not mentioning them because after this is pretty much the arc where if you're not a Saiyan or a CPU, you're irrelevant. So, sorry Piccolo fans, but I don't give random ass pull power-ups. With the exception of the Elder Kai, but that's part of the lore. So the Z Fighters mentioned above enter the World Martial Arts Tournament. And this time, everyone knows the plan and calls Supreme Kai an idiot. Instead of, giving Boo half the energy he needs to revive, Noir just powers up her full power in base. And this is good enough for the two goons, whose names I honestly couldn't be bothered to remember, and I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, but don't care. Spopovich and Yamu, I think. Who really cares? They both attack Noir and take her energy. Well, she isn't happy to be a guinea pig, because they need to know where Babidi is. Or so, that was the plan, but, as they were approaching Noir, she stopped and thought about it and was like, no, I'm not a guinea pig. Why am I doing this? Why? This isn't my problem. I don't want to get stuck. And so she kicked their ass. And this put a lot of dread into the Supreme Kai, who was like, oh no, we gotta find Boo and you're beating the shit out of these guys? Well, it's okay. Noir's got it handled. She watches as the two goons run away, and they're leading them straight to the ship. So in the end of the day, what Noir did was okay. Afterwards, everything that happens in canon pretty much happens as scheduled, with the exception of Deborah spitting on everyone. Pui Pui and Yakan are beaten quite easily. Everyone is far more powerful than them. Those two are weaklings, after all. And then Deborah shows up, and things change depending on who goes. Now, this what if can go so many different directions. Because, as I said, Goku and Vegeta are only as powerful as normal Perfect Cell. So, the only people who could fight Deborah are the CPUs and... the CPUs, because Pishi and Iris Heart fall in that category. However, to play it safe, Pishi is the one who steps up. Also because, she's the strongest. However, since Pishi is indeed the strongest, and the strongest Buhan, and Deborah was beaten by Majin Buu,
you can imagine how much she dunked on Deborah. Now, I could say that Peachy gets cocky, she gets spit on, but you know, she's been trained her whole life. I doubt she'd fall for such a simple trick. And then Bobbity is left with no henchmen, and he's killed. He's dead. And that's it. Majin Buu's not revived. Supreme Kai takes his egg and brings him somewhere else. Yeah, this is quite strange. Well, as of the point of writing that paragraph, we weren't even 2 pages in. We're still not 2 pages in, after some editing I've been doing mid-script. So, let's add a little bit of extension, right? Let's make this a little bit longer. Add a little bit of runtime here for me, because I need that viewage time. For the sake of argument, let's say that Majin Buu was revived. We'll say they took Noir's energy, like, you know, kind of like how they did Super Saiyan 2 Gohan, and they're like, oh my god, look at all this energy, and, you know, get revived somehow. Well, Majin Buu still doesn't have the strength to beat Peachy, as she is far stronger. After learning she can't beat him normally, she would just completely evaporate Majin Buu, kind of like how they did with Kid Buu. And let's say, for the sake of argument, Peachy doesn't get ultimate. Well, Goku and Vegeta are on perfect cells level, CPU are above them, Iris Heart is above them, and Peachy is above Iris Heart. Deborah is still getting defeated. He's not that much power. Like, he's not that much more powerful. And thus, Majin Buu doesn't get revived still. Again, even if Majin Buu does, it doesn't matter. Elder Kai is here, and they have Potara. A Yellow Heart and Iris Heart fusion would be comparable to Vegito, if not greater. And so, that's how the what if ends. For now, at least. I mentioned it in the update video that's being released before this. I'm actually recording this on the 24th to let you know how far ahead this is being recorded. So the update video is being released on the 26th, and I kind of mentioned there that, you know, continuing this what if is kind of difficult, because I don't think if we do Dragon Ball GT, much is going to change, like, at all. I haven't thought about it too hard, but, you know, just thinking off the top of my head, doesn't seem like much is going to change. And if I do Dragon Ball Super, well, the problem becomes that, again, first of all, not much is going to change, and I would be doing the manga version. Unlike all the what-ifs on YouTube, I prefer the manga over the anime. I think the manga is better in, like, every way. And so, yeah, you know, maybe I should do a video on that, why the manga is better than the anime. But, yeah, so, now that I'm opposed to continuing the series, it's that I'm like, you know, what's going to change? Most of the changes I see happening are in the Tournament of Power. And that's a problem, because I am not going to sit there and describe every change that happens because we replaced the humans in Piccolo with CPU. We're just not going to do that. So, yeah, that's it. That's it for this what if for now. If you would really like to see a part 2, not part 2, if you'd like to see me go further than Dragon Ball Z, because I know the last version of this ended in the Frieza saga, at least we finished Dragon Ball Z this time, right? Leave a comment down below. Or, you know, in fact, I'll leave a comment down below saying, Dragon Ball... No, I'm not going to leave a comment down below. I'm going to forget this video was even fucking uploaded. Leave a comment down below saying if you want me to continue with Dragon Ball Super manga or GT, because I'm not doing the anime. The anime fucking sucks. It's garbage. I don't know why you guys should watch that shit. It's free. It's trash. And I refuse to rewatch the Dragon Ball Super anime to write a what if. It's not happening. Okay? The only what if I would do, which I canceled a long time ago, is me rewriting it. And even then, I wouldn't want to rewatch it. So no, I'm not we're not doing the anime, okay? So, your choices are the Dragon Ball Super manga or Dragon Ball GT for the continuation.
And of course, this video has to hit 10 likes, which is 1% of my viewers. So I imagine it's not that hard. And these videos normally get about 100 views. So hey, I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Not that hard. Not that hard, guys. 10 of you need to press the like button. And I know more than 10 of you watch these videos. So if we don't get a continuation, you know whose fault it is, right? Okay. I'll see you next time. Goodbye. Years have passed since the events of Babidi, and Majin Buu was never released. During those 4 years, the Saiyans, other than Pishi and kind of Trunks, grew massively. For starters, all the pure Red Saiyans have unlocked Super Saiyan 3, which is made easier due to them having their tails still. Gohan wants to follow down his dad's path, however Trunks is starting to slowly lose to his human nature, and have had his potential unlocked by the Elder Kai, just like Pishi. This puts him slightly above the adults actually, but he loses due to skill. CPUs have all gotten weaker, however. As per normal, Neptune and Vert are lazy, while Blanc has been studying some strange crystals filled with energy along with Blanc. However, she's been noticeably getting sick lately. Quite strange, as they've never been sick before. Nora used to work pretty hard, however, while being very successful as a businesswoman running a whole subdivision of Capsule Corp on her own, she's starting to slacken her training too. After all the rest of the CPU do, she deserves a break. Iris Heart had also finally deformed back to Plutia, and everyone prefers that, so they just let her be lazy. They're not going to try to make her transform. Pishi had been training enough to satisfy her Saiyan half. However, if she's gotten any stronger, it's hardly noticeable. Bulma's birthday party comes up, and everyone's actually there this time. Goku's a bit smarter and more mature in this series, so he does show up on time. But while everyone's having a good time, Beerus shows up. Vegeta and Nappa are nearly shitting their pants. Raditz has heard stories, but he doesn't really know how to feel, and everyone else is confused on why Vegeta is terrifying of a purple cat. Beerus introduces himself and says he's looking for a Super Saiyan God. Goku explains that they don't know what that is, but they can cycle through their forms. Beerus agrees to a little bit of exercise. Goku goes Super Saiyan, but Beerus isn't impressed. And then Goku goes Super Saiyan 2, and while being noticeably more powerful, Beerus is still less than happy. Finally, Goku goes Super Saiyan 3, and Beerus is finally impressed. Goku is about as strong as he can be, as strong as he was in canon, so yeah, as strong as he can be. And then he gets clapped. Since Beerus isn't pissed off though, Goku gets to live, and while Beerus is more interested in the CPU and to an extension, Trunks. So Goku is just kind of like a side project for him right now. The CPUs have a godly aura to them. Not like him, but maybe a lesser god. And Pishi is apparently Goku's son, even though she looks nothing like either of her parents. Trunks has a slight bit of godliness to him, likely being his ultimate form. And Pishi decides, or agrees, to show off her ultimate form to Beerus. But while she is notably stronger than Goku, not enough to impress Beerus. Beerus came for a Super Saiyan God, but got nothing he wanted. So he's gonna blow up the planet. But before he can, Neptune suggests to use the Deus Ex Machina, aka the Dragon Balls. The story of 5 pure-hearted Saiyans was told, and so naturally they had more than enough to make a Super Saiyan God. And the choice was obvious. Pick Pishi. She's the strongest. So that's what Beerus thought. But Pishi didn't think this was such a good idea. In case you forgot, Pishi was the first to unlock HDD. And she did this before anyone knew what Super Saiyans were, aside from Vegeta, but he'd only heard stories. Because HDD is equal to Super Saiyan 2, and she had no reason to learn either Super Saiyan levels, she just never learned it. She had also gotten the ultimate form before her father learned Super Saiyan 3. So, even if she didn't get her ultimate form, or, but there's basically no reason for her to get Super Saiyan. Because Super Saiyan 3 is weaker than the ultimate form. HED is equal to Super Saiyan 2. Those forms are literally just more strenuous power-ups than the ones she already has. So, there was no reason to do so. Plus, HDD made her an adult when she was a kid. So, it was a more combat-capable form anyways. There's just no reason to learn. They decided to try it anyways. And so Goku, Vegeta, Raditz, and Nappa, as well as Gohan, put their energy into Pishi. At first, everything is fine. It's glowing a bright red color and powering up, but then she feels something weird trigger inside it. A familiar weird, but weird nonetheless. She struggles to hold in her dramatically increasing power, before she explodes with a bright pillar of light filling the air, with a red glow inside. Pishi, instead of turning to a Super Saiyan God, turned HDD, and then Super Saiyan God on top of that. This combines the forms nearly seamlessly, creating what is essentially her version of Super Saiyan Blue. Beyond that, actually, since HDD is equal to Super Saiyan 2 in power. Not to mention, in this form, since her body itself transformed, she has no control issue. Well, she has one. The only issue is that this form is stacked. It's like an ascension to HDD. And HDD messes with her personality. So, before the fight officially starts, Pishi runs up yelling a big bang and sent Beerus into the atmosphere with an uppercut while he was talking. So, yeah, you can imagine that pissed Beerus off. Regardless, though, Beerus is plenty happy. He's over 100 times stronger than Goku at bare minimum. Thus, he had a way better fight than in canon. And the universe wasn't threatening to be destroyed. So, we're all good. Unfortunately, though, as I've mentioned a couple times before, we're in the manga version of this timeline. I think I mentioned it a couple times already. So, Pishi does not absorb the Super Saiyan God power into her base. That's something she'd have to train. Out in the depths of space, however, there's a large block of ice. It slowly cracks open before a figure appears from it. It's Cooler. His men approach him, wondering if he recovered well. A long time ago, Cooler was hit by a species' secret technique, and since his guard was down, he suffered fatal damage. He had to go into a deep hibernation to properly heal due to the lack of technology at the time. He asked the armored squadron to take him into space. No doubt their ship is out of date, and their database even more. They land on a Frieza planet, and learn that the planet is nearly lost to the local forces. Frieza and King Cold have been killed, and Cooler was lost to time, so there was no one to properly lead their forces. Cooler sees what happens with their limited data. Some random women killing his brother and father. Oh, and apparently there were some stupid monkeys too. Cooler thinks to himself, 1 year. All he needs is to train for 1 year to upgrade his ship, fully recover, and train to be strong enough to beat some stupid women and their stupid monkeys too. After all, what's the worst that would happen? They unlock another new transformation right after the previous arc? Surely not. After the events of Beerus, everyone continues training, given that they didn't stand a chance against Beerus. Gohan in particular has been questioning his potential. Pishi was just so much further than he was, so he wanted her power, being his older sister. After all, he looked up to her. However, when Gohan asked about Super Saiyan God, Pishi explained that her form wasn't Super Saiyan. She could tell because she felt her power increase further past HDD, and a normal Saiyan wouldn't have been able to do that. Which makes Gohan further ponder. He could just do the ritual too, but he doesn't want to. He's not quite Vegeta or his dad, but he still has his pride as a Saiyan. So Gohan actually goes to Raditz and asks to learn more about Saiyan. And while Gohan doesn't feel proud for their people's nature, does find it interesting. His tail. It allows them to turn to great apes, which is something Gohan actually had no idea about. Gohan vaguely recalls the information being told to him before, but him and Goku really weren't exposed to the transformation. Pishi and Gohan have never transformed to a great ape, period. Although Pishi has no tail, so I mean, it's not like she'd have the chance to do it regardless. Gohan would unlock Super Saiyan 3 like the full-blood Saiyans, but Gohan would ponder on these thoughts, his tail, and Peach's newfound strength. Perhaps with his knowledge, he could grow stronger, and while experimenting, he'd come to an interesting conclusion. He asked about Saiyan tails to the Supreme Kai and Elder Kai while training, and asked if Kibito's healing ability could regrow it. And then he tells them to chop off his tail. Everyone's kinda confused why he'd do that. Nappa and Raditz are outraged. Gohan doesn't care. He's told them to do it. After having his tail removed, Gohan had trouble controlling his power for a bit, which Goku recalls having the same trouble when he was a kid. Within a few days, Gohan was able to go Super Saiyan 2 again. However, as he tries to go Super Saiyan 3, he realizes it's a lot harder to do than before. And when he does transform, the form is so much more strenuous that he can only hold it for 30 seconds in a sparring match with Raditz. By the end of the week, he goes through a very painful process of regrowing his tail, where he would almost immediately feel the difference and start coming to his own conclusions. But wait, training with Raditz and Nappa, where's Goku and Vegeta? Well, those two were on Beerus' planet. Those two realized that base to base, Goku and Vegeta were even, and just barely behind Pishi in terms of base form at least. While Nappa isn't a significant amount behind those two, it's noticeable, and the same can be said with Raditz to Nappa. And 2 Saiyans were enough as it is, they weren't going to have 5. Pishi wasn't really interested in the training, she'd just wait for her dad to get back and teach her then. She's kinda lazy after all, like her mother. This means that only the CPU, Piccolo, and the humans were left on Earth, however, as the other Saiyans were on the Supreme Kai's planet. We cut to Bulma and Blanc. Blanc, as per usual in these expeditions, felt like shit, but she put it off. She just feels weak when around this ore, and she's always just fine when she gets home the next day after a nice sleep. Didn't quite understand it. As Capital Corp's employees were mining the ore, though, a big dinosaur appeared, likely that T-Rex thing you often see in Z. That's when Blanc did finally get off her ass. Unfortunately for the dinosaur, Blanc breaks some of its teeth out with a single kick, and it whimpers back in the forest. All the day's work, she supposed. As they were collecting crystals, Blanc takes a seat once again. She had a headache, and she's starting to feel tired. But before she could take a nap or rest, one of the scientists says the crystals are acting weird now that they started piling them up. This confuses Bulma and Blanc, and they go check it out. As they do, the crystals react violently and explode. Bulma looks down, shocked and shaken. Blanc had quickly grabbed Bulma and flown out of the way of the explosion, but before she could make it back to the ground to drop her off, everyone had already been killed. There's large smoke, and her senses were overwhelmed by something inside of it. Aside of the smoke were a pair of Dragon Balls and a person. Blanc's eyes widen upon seeing that the person looked like her own HDD form, only distorted. For visual purposes, we're using an inverted white heart, but if I had the choice, I'd make more specific changes. Similar to Uzume and Kurame in V2. Blanc puts Bulma down and tells her to go home, because Blanc was now pissed off, and she starts approaching the Faker, while Bulma leaves on a jet. She tries to ask what the hell the Faker is, but there's no words exchanged. The Faker rushes Blanc and quickly sends her flying. Two get into a clash, throwing punches and kicks, but Blanc is overwhelmed swiftly. She jumps out of the way of an energy blast and throws down one of her own, but after the large explosion, there was no damage. Blanc gets annoyed and uses... As Blanc used the legendary technique, she learned that it did no damage. She really didn't get that 1 out of 100% chance to do damage. Big sad. Blanc was huffing and puffing. She was just so goddamn tired, and she didn't understand why. She'd barely been fighting, but she felt like she's been fighting for hours. She then realizes that if she wants to beat this opponent, she's going to have to transform. So she lets out a yell and begins glowing brightly before... Nothing happens. She looks at her hands in shock, but then gets launched into the ground by a strong right hook from the Faker. Blanc slowly gets up, and before she can launch another attack, Noir kicks the imposter away. Noir makes fun at Blanc for getting her ass kicked by a negative recolor of herself. But Blanc then tells Noir to shut the fuck up. Blanc then gets a distance away to let Noir fight, where she quickly transforms into Blackheart to just get it over with. She had business to attend to after all. Blackheart actually starts beating the shit out of fake Whiteheart. Blackheart then charges a Kamehameha after sending the Faker flying and launches it off. A technique she picked up from Goku, obviously, and hits the enemy dead on. However, as the smoke dissipates, the Faker is still there and perfectly fine. The Faker would spit out some blood and then rush Blackheart after the two caught their breath. This time, the Faker was actually able to defend herself, albeit barely. The two then disappear, and some clashes appear in the air, before Blackheart gets hit with a strong right hook. That was a lucky shot. The two begin to clash again, for about 5 minutes in total, and Blackheart realizes something is wrong. She's winded, and when she got here, she was smacking the imposter around. Not to mention, before, she seemed to suddenly be able to keep up with Blackheart, and then the tanker completely tanked her Kamehameha. The faker then hit Blackheart in the face and is sent flying through some boulders. Blackheart sat up and also spat out some blood. It was her time this time. Even though she just blasted that faker to his somehow knocking Blackheart around. She didn't understand what the hell was going on. Bert appears and asks what's going on. Blackheart told her to can't and that she could handle it. However, after a very quick scuffle with the faker, Blackheart couldn't handle it. Bert turns into Greenheart and the two jump the faker. But even working together, they struggle. As Blackheart huffs, Blanc stares up at them. Curious, Blanc would fly up to the two and tell them that somehow they're having their energy drained. It would explain why the faker negged the Kamehameha, and as they're having this conversation, Neptune shows up as Purpleheart, and the group, would start jumping negative Whiteheart. However, just like with Blanc and Blackheart, every clash, the enemy actually grows stronger. Eventually, though, as negative Whiteheart goes for a killing blow against Greenheart, she gets drop-kicked by Peachy. Way to go to the basically main character of the series. This was Peachy's first day off in over a month. No job, no homework, no training. She's gonna have a nice day out with her boyfriend. Purpleheart wasn't having that. But regardless, Peachy activated her ultimate form and started going to town. And it was brutal. The faker wasn't even getting a single hit off. It was really bad. The CPU mentioned that thing can absorb energy. However, Peachy doesn't seem to notice, as, again, she's knocking this thing around. You have to remember the power gap between Peachy and the other CPU. Her base form is stronger, meaning her HDD would be stronger, but her ultimate form is higher than that of a Super Saiyan 3's, while HDD is only as strong as a Super Saiyan. The power gap is quite tremendous. After a little while, though, Peachy can feel what they're talking about, but she doesn't understand how they lost if they were only getting so much energy drained. Neptune tries to think of why Peachy would be so unaffected, but Noir comes to the realization herself. The thing absorbs CPU's energy, but when they go HDD, I guess you could say CPU energy skyrockets. Peachy is only a halfling, and she's not using a CPU form, so Peachy isn't having her energy drained nearly as fast as everyone else. And Blanc was near the crystals all day, so it's no wonder she would have been tired right away. Regardless though, Peachy's having trouble, or starts having trouble. The enemy has already absorbed a lot from the other CPU, and Peachy tries finishing her off with a large Kamehameha. Before everyone could tell her why this is a terrible idea, fake Whiteheart opens up her Ann's Super 17 style and just takes the attack head on. Peachy didn't know it could absorb Energy Blast after all. They kind of left that detail out. Peachy starts getting annoyed and huffs as she tries to power up further. She was just gonna bust out her new god form. However, as she starts to power up, her energy just stops. She seems confused and tries powering back up, but then it fizzles out again. Wham! She's sent flying to the ground. As Peachy gets up, she realizes she's been sent right next to the crystals, which had exploded, but now there are tiny bits of them all over the ground. She feels her body start turning to mush as her energy is drained much more rapidly, and she slowly starts crawling away, wiping the blood off her face. She didn't quite understand what was going on. She was perfectly fine one moment, and then the next, her energy just disappeared. As Whiteheart goes to throw an energy blast, Neptune remembers something. Neptune remembers that this isn't named Dragon Ball Super X Hyperdimension Peachy. This is named Dragon Ball Z X Hyperdimension Neptunia. Her name's in the what if. She can't let Peachy take her role as the main character. It's preposterous. She turns into HCD and kicks the faker away. She then demands that everyone else gives them their energy. Peachy immediately does as she's told, and begrudgingly everyone else does as well. As Purpleheart receives their energy, she transforms again, powering up by a very large amount. Peachy then immediately picks up on the trace of God as Purpleheart turns into her next transformation. Inside this new form, negative Whiteheart can't seem to absorb next Purple's power, and with a single slash of her katana, the faker is sliced in half and blown up dramatically. She then blasts the ground where the crystals were, causing a large explosion. However, it would appear that the Dragon Balls were unharmed. She then passes out immediately. Our story picks up from last time. After Neptune accessed the next form, they decided to look further into these red crystals. Apparently, they were all over the planet, but now Bulma and the CPU realized that the crystals have some kind of connection, and that Capscorp will be destroying them. But ignoring that, the CPU has something more concerning in mind. Neptune got this new super special awesome transformation, And now everyone wants it. And thus, everyone does the ritual again towards the other CPU. After the CPU power up and they try out their powers. However, they come to realize that Neptune cannot access the power she used before. Just like Peachy can't access the power of her stay and drive divinity, or whatever we're calling it. And despite her stronger base form, Peachy's ultimate form still can't beat the CPU's next form. And just a quick side note, in the Discord server, it was brought to my attention that some people seem to have missed what I previously stated. If it wasn't clear before, these forms are the CPU's stand-ins for Super Saiyan God and Blue and etc. So Saiyan God Divinity is twice as strong as Blue, and next is equal to Super Saiyan Blue, the complete version. That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the complete version. And neither of these forms can be accessed by the group willingly. In fact, I'm pretty sure I mentioned that before. The server seems to think that they could, and I don't know why they thought this, because there's literally no evidence of this whatsoever. I literally said Peachy could not access her new transformation in Part 2. Not to mention, none of the CPUs actively train, so I honestly have no idea why anyone thought Neptune could access her next form, or Peachy access Stay and Drive Divinity, SDD. But no, they are unable to actively access the form. Join the Discord server. Okay, thanks. Back to the story. So after the other CPU learned that they were unable to access their new form either, they all began to train again with each other to unlock that form. Peachy, unfortunately, doesn't have enough time to train as much as they do. A job and college takes up enough time as it is. Oh, and in case you're wondering what Peachy's doing in college, I don't know. Let's say she's becoming a professional artist. For funsies. One day, as everyone is training though, everyone senses a power level approaching the planet. A few of them, but one of them is massively larger than the other, and kind of feels familiar to some of the group. As the CPU, including Peachy and Gohan, and Piccolo, show up to the location of the enemy. Out of the ship comes Cooler's armored squadron, and then Cooler himself. Everyone would ask who he is, and he'd tell them his name is Cooler, Frieza's big brother. Remember, no one would recognize him because they never saw Frieza's final form, so he doesn't look like the rest of his family. That means we're avoiding the racism charges in this one, unlike the movie. Cooler explains that he doesn't care about his little brother or father, but a disgrace against his bloodline is still a disgrace. They must be taken care of. Peachy brags, smirking as she does something foolish. Peachy puts a thumb to herself and says, "Ha! Handle us, please. I killed your father as a child. I'll pummel your lizard ass in the ground and blow you into the wind." Cooler would then stare, before firing a death beam through her shoulder. It was actually aimed at her heart, but she barely had time to dodge the attack, and yelled out in pain. Peachy would growl and power up into her ultimate form, before flying past the armored squadron and sending Cooler flying through his own ship with a right hook, and then flying after him. Gohan chases after the two, while the CPU and Piccolo deal with the armored squadron. Piccolo says he wants to go first. The others are a bit concerned, but Piccolo's last fight against 1718 was 12 years ago. Piccolo scoffs and tells them that he has not been slacking off, although it's clear he's fallen behind. He says he can take them though. Cooler's armored squadron are appalled, but decide to accept it. Piccolo grunts as he goes to fight the Cooler's armored squadron, and well, and they're taken care of basically the same way as they are in the dub, the movie. I mean, only Salzer is actually killed in this. So there you go, Piccolo fans. I gave your boy a dub. Now remember, Piccolo has not fused with Kami or Nail in this. So right now, if we are giving maximum wankage here, okay? Piccolo's second cell, this second form cell level. That's the most I can give him. I can't see him being any stronger whatsoever. Meanwhile, with Peachy, she's having a bit of trouble. She really can't use her arm anymore, and Cooler has a tail. But she's far stronger than Cooler currently, so she sends her flying into a mountain with a kick. Cooler would get himself out and compliment Peachy. He was impressed. However, this charade of weakness has gone on long enough. Peachy looks confused, and then Cooler begins to power up. Peachy's caught off guard by the sudden rush of power. You see, in this timeline, Cell never woke up, and Frieza never transformed. So, Cooler is actually the first opponent they're fighting who transforms. So, yeah, she's kind of appalled, you know, she's like, transforming? That's our thing. But, unfortunately for Peachy, it's a Dragon Ball thing. Apologies. Peachy quickly takes a knee to the gut, and then gets her face slammed into the ground, collapsing the whole cliff thereon. Peachy lifts her hand to fire a blast into his face, but does no damage as she's slammed into the water, onto the ground inside the water. Peachy's eyes widen, before Cooler lets go of her face and begins to punch further down onto him. She lets out a gargled, bloodied yell, as he continues to hit her in the face under the water, slowly losing consciousness and drowning. As Cooler raises his fist to finish her off, he feels a rumble in the water, before getting kicked in the face by a golden glow. Gohan, Super Saiyan 3, quickly grabs Peachy and flies out of the water. He tries CPR, where she eventually coughs up bloodied water and then passes back out. Gohan's golden Super Saiyan 3 aura sparks as he gets angry. He then vanishes and hits Cooler in the face again, and the two begin to clash. But Cooler quickly gains the upper hand, kicking the boy away. Gohan rolls and uses his aura to stop himself midair, before firing an uncharged Kamehameha from range. Cooler powers up and then flies through the blast just like the movie. Gohan is shocked, and then he is punched into the side of a mountain. A lot of mountains were hurt in the making of this What If. Gohan admits that he underestimated Cooler, and that he figured he'd be easy to handle, just like how his older sister killed the rest of his family so easily. Cooler then drops the bombshell that he's only been using a third of his power, and that he knows Gohan's been holding back too. When Cooler insists on doing so, Gohan smirks and turns back to his base form, saying that if he wants it, he's got it. Gohan gets a serious expression, and his eyes flash gold before he starts yelling, releasing a bright golden explosion of energy as he powers up, pushing, the clouds and the water and the earth around him, flying everywhere. And when the light dissipates, Gohan has become a Super Saiyan 4. Cooler would make a comment saying how Gohan's become even more of a monkey, but then immediately regrets it as Gohan hits Cooler in the gut, followed up by a few more stronger punches. He would then send him into the ground with a short-range ki blast. As Gohan would land on the ground, he'd tell Cooler to leave. Cooler would be both shocked and offended. Taking mercy from Gohan? The rest of the team would show up and tell Gohan to finish him off. Gohan doesn't get why though. Cooler didn't kill anybody. Piccolo explains to him that if he lets Cooler go, just come back stronger later. Even stronger than before. Remember, this is Gohan's first villain. He wasn't involved with Majin Buu, not directly at least. And then he also wasn't involved with Beerus. Majin Buu wasn't there to piss off Beerus. It was all good. So, this is Gohan's first real battle. He doesn't understand the importance of killing your opponent before they get the upper hand or come back stronger. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depends how you look at it, he learns the lesson very quickly, as Cooler hits Gohan in the back with a large ki blast and flies into the air while they're blinded. Cooler then starts charging a supernova, stating that he's the one who gets to decide who lives and dies. He was the strongest in the universe. Gohan would stare up calmly and charge up a Kamehameha. The blast easily goes through Cooler's own attack and sends him into the atmosphere, then space. The Kamehameha, assumingly, easily killing the much weaker Cooler. Gohan reverts to normal, and people have questions. What was that form, and what was that second form? How did he get so strong? Where did those clothes come from? And those answers? Super Saiyan 3, Super Saiyan 4, training, and he doesn't know. Super Saiyan 4 has magic close powers. Gohan and Neptune take Kishi to Corns for a sensu beam, because, remember, Dende does not exist here on Earth. Meanwhile, on Supreme Kai's planet, Raditz and Nappa see what has happened through the magical orb and get triggered. How did he get this strong? How dare he unlock a new form without them? This is not fair! Goku and Vegeta also saw on Beerus' planet. They're fascinated by Super Saiyan 4, but it's not as strong as Super Saiyan Blue. As a new threat is about to affect the planet Earth, we'll see how this works in the next part of the Destroyer tournament. Sometime later, after Cooler appeared, Goku and Vegeta. That's what it says in my script. I'm gonna leave that in the video. Goku and Vegeta appeared and told everyone about the Tournament of Destroyers, and that they need a total of 5 fighters to fill their ranks. The starting roster was quite obvious. Goku, Vegeta, and Gohan were the strongest 3 as of this very moment, with Super Saiyan Blue and Super Saiyan 4. But who would the next contestant be? Kishi explains that she has college and a job, and that she just made the excuse that she got into an accident not too long ago to fight Cooler. How the hell was she supposed to pass school and keep her job if she kept being pulled out of both to fight? And while this was true, Vegeta then pointed out that she can just get a job at Cap Support, who can pay her more money, very biased bonus, makes her save 50% or more on car insurance, and the excuse to leave to fight and train. Which makes a lot of sense. It pays to have connections, doesn't it? The next choice was between the CPU's Raditz and Nappa. Raditz and Nappa could use Super Saiyan 3, making them stronger than the CPU. However, Neptune said that if they wanted to go into the time chamber, she could unlock her super special awesome form, which made the other CPUs argue that they would like to go instead, because they can also use the super special awesome form. However, this made Pluty Patootie very angry. So please step on me. This made Madame Goddess slam her foot down and told them all to sit the fuck down. He would be taking the 5th slot, and everyone immediately felt bad for Universe 6. It was not going to be a pretty time. Spoiler alert. After that, everyone had 3 days to prepare. So Goku suggested the hyperbolic lion tamer. It should be noted that Vegeta, Kishi, and Plutia have not been there before. But Goku and technically Gohan have. Let me explain. You see, Goku trained with Neptune before the Android Saga, where Neptune learned HDD, if you recall. Gohan had gone in between the events of Cooler and Part 2, which happened off screen. I didn't explain that to you, but that's where Gohan learned Super Saiyan 4. That's why he looks like an adult. Which was done the GT method, by the way, because we are GT Super Saiyan 4 fans in this household. However, Gohan had been there before by technicality. Also remember that Neptune got pregnant with Gohan while they were in the time chamber. Now, for the sake of plot, I'm going to say that this doesn't count towards Gohan's time in the chamber, but you could make a technicality that Gohan can't go in there for a full 2nd year because he would have spent a couple months pregnant. He wouldn't have been pregnant. He was inside Neptune for a couple months while she was pregnant with him in the time chamber. This is very hard to explain, but I think you understand what I'm trying to say. With that, let's move on, shall we? The first day, Goku trains with Vegeta, using the rest of Goku's time. The second day, Kishi trains with Iris Heart, who she actually has no problem with, really. Remember that most of Kishi's childhood was spent with Iris Heart. So, yes, Mommy Iris Heart is actually canon. Anyway, Gohan trains with Vegeta, using both of their remaining years left. That would be the end of their 3 days of training. After this, though, Kami decides that he will fix this. He gathers the Dragon Balls and makes himself younger like King Piccolo did in the cast, which we didn't cover in this What If, because nothing before or during that point was changed. He then decided that not only will he upgrade the Time Chamber, but he'll do some training of his own. We'll get back to that some other time. Ignoring that though, the group heads onto the Universe 67 tournament. I'll show you a ranking of the characters at the end of the video, if I remember. Comment if I forget. Anyway, the first round is Iris Heart versus Botamo. And, well, I would love to tell you about how this fight goes, but unfortunately, we have a sadist versus someone who can't take a lot, if any, harm. So, I won't go into any details for censorship purposes, but Botamo leaves with mostly emotional damage. Afterwards, Iris goes after Frost. Frost, after seeing the last display, goes straight into his final form, third. Iris teases him and then begins to beat the shit out of him with her heels and whip, which would be allowed since she's technically materializing the weapon instead of bringing it onto the field. Eventually, Frost would turn into his actual final form, which only made the goddess lick her lips in return. Iris Heart dodged Frost's death beams, and as if mocking him, fired some of her own, piercing both of his legs. Injuries don't matter as long as he wasn't dead, right? She was toying with him, making him work for his attack, which was an energy beam that grazed Iris Heart's arm. After that though, when Frost tried to rush her with that punch, the one with the poison needle, she kicks him in the jaw, the judo style, and then grabs his leg, slamming him out of the arena. Poor Frost. And then of course, after Frost, we have Vegeta, and do I even need to talk about this one? Next is Iris Heart versus Kaba. This one is quite easy for Iris to win as well, and for the most part, she's perfectly fine, if not a little worn out from the increased heat of Magneto. However, this means that Kaba doesn't turn into a Super Saiyan, as rather than being angry, he is more so disturbed and off guard. Kaba is actually a competent fighter, but unfortunately he just isn't anywhere near Iris Heart's level. Remember that HDD is a Super Saiyan level boost. Afterwards, Iris Heart fights against the man, the assassin. Iris Heart scoffs. This whole tournament has been a breeze. She overtrained for this. I mean, she could have just stayed at home and been cozy in her snuggie, but no, she has to deal with this bullshit. However, in a matter of seconds, Iris Heart grunts as she feels a massive amount of pain through her body. She growls and fires a few beams from her finger, but she doesn't see Hit move as he hits her in all of her pressure points. I mean, all of them. Between her tiring out over the tournament and Hit's raw power advantage, Iris Heart quickly drops back down to Plutia very quickly, which, for some people, might be a good thing. Gohan quickly scoops up his aunt, and the siblings glare at it. It was a tournament, yeah, but to see their Auntie Plutie get knocked unconscious in less than a minute was aggravating to the half-breeds. After Plutia's defeat, Gohan stepped up. Gohan wasn't sure how to go about this, and thinks he'll just try to test the waters in his base form to conserve energy. However, Goku quickly tells him that's not the best idea. This is our last fighter, and he beat Iris pretty quickly. Gohan nods and turns to a Super Saiyan 2. He's quickly overwhelmed in the first 30 seconds though, and tries to keep his distance with Ki Blast. This doesn't work either though. Gohan then powers up to a Super Saiyan 3, and although he's taking the hits better, he's still overwhelmed by what appears to be his raw speed. Doesn't understand. Jocko would then reveal that he's using a time chip. Yes, Jocko is in this situation, this scenario. I just never saw the point of bringing him up before. And Hit would also confirm that he can skip time. His beat off is unskippable. Anyway, Gohan transforms to a Super Saiyan 4 after that. Now as a Super Saiyan 4, Gohan tells Hit to come at him. And so Hit does, hitting Gohan a number of times. This time, Gohan braced himself to take all the attacks, before landing a devastating blow to his body, followed by a flurry of lesser but much quicker attacks. He then tries to swing a hit at Hit's head, but Hit uses his time stop to dodge the hit and land another flurry of hits. How many times can I say hit in a single sentence? Gohan is stronger than Hit, but Hit attacks pressure points and was using time skip. Not to mention, between the damage he took from Super Saiyan 2 and 3, and tanking damage as Super Saiyan 4 to counteract Hit's time skip, Gohan eventually falls unconscious. He starts counting down. Then, Gohan wakes up, jumping and yelling, "I got you!" and gut-punching Hit harder than he's ever been hit before. Gohan then fires a point-blank Kamehameha, which flies right past the Universe 6 stands, nearly hitting their God of Destruction. However, after the blast dissipates, Gohan receives a blow to the back of the neck. His blast had missed Hit just barely. He jumps out of Super Saiyan 4 to his base form. Nice attempt, but fortunately just not good enough. Next is Vegeta, the third strongest on the team. I know what it's. Now, unlike the manga, Hit is injured, and Vegeta is not exhausted. And Vegeta knows Hit's technique. So, Vegeta turns to a Super Saiyan God rather than a Super Saiyan Blue. Now, I should note in my what ifs, I make Super Saiyan God and Super Saiyan 4 have the same multiplier of 100 times Super Saiyan 3. However, Gohan was weakened by fighting in Super Saiyan 2 and 3 first. But not only that, Vegeta's base form is higher than Gohan's due to him training with Whis. Vegeta quickly defeats Hit with an explosive wave, which Hit can't dodge, and wins the tournament. It's the middle of the day on the Supreme Kai planet. Nappa and Raditz were training as per usual. However, all of a sudden, a visitor appeared. Zamasu. Kibito Kai and Supreme Kai were surprised. Zamasu wasn't one to visit other gods. Zamasu immediately noticed the Saiyans and questioned the two Kais. Why were there two mortals here? Supreme Kai explained that they helped save the universe from Majin Buu. It was reward for them. Zamasu glared and proceeded to talk to them with ease. Then, as soon as they turned their back, Kibito cries as he gets slashed down the center of his back. The Kais and Saiyans are shocked, but then the Saiyans get excited. Nappa transforms to a Super Saiyan 2 and sends the Kai flying. Zamasu makes a remark about how Nappa is a brute and couldn't beat Zamasu. And while Nappa is a lot stronger, Zamasu used his technique and small frame to counter and cut Nappa. But he's just too weak, and is sent flying. Nappa then raises his fingers and causes an explosion that would have killed the Kai. But it didn't. Raditz pushes Nappa aside and calls him soft before turning into a Super Saiyan 2. He throws a Saturday Crush at Zamasu, who doesn't try to move. Instead, he's unharmed. Everyone's confused, and Raditz scoffs, transforming into a Super Saiyan 3. However, even in that form, he can't hurt Zamasu. Supreme Kai teleports himself and Elder Kai to Beerus' planet, where Whis and Beerus would quickly reappear with Goku and Vegeta. Beerus is pissed that someone would dare try to kill him, and begins to beat the shit out of Zamasu. Every time he tries to leave, he would be cut off by Beerus kicking his ass. This continues until Whis creates a seal and uses it against Elder Kai, and seals Zamasu away. Now, why did I very briefly go over the Zamasu arc in this case, and basically not include Goku Black? Well, without time travel, I don't think Zamasu would have wished for immortality, but I felt like it would have been more useful than stealing Vegeta's body, which he would have done in this situation, since Vegeta was the one he saw the God Key. However, if he did that, he would have been attacked pretty damn quickly by Pishi, and then Vegeta would be revived. Either way, this arc is realistically not very interesting, and since this arc is absolute dog shit anyways, I don't think any of us care. So, it's a lot better in the manga, to be fair. Anyway, this moves on to the top. But SMDBZX, how does the Tournament of Power happen? No one became friends with Zeno. Well, we just never went over it. And for the sake of plot, Neptune had actually visited Zeno and suggested the idea. Because Neptune knows things. So, here's how we're doing this. I'm not going over every single fight. I will only be going over the major events briefly. and skipping the rest, because there are 80 fighters in the Tournament of Power. You don't remember most of their names. I bet you struggle to remember anyone who isn't Jiren, Dispo, and Top. So I don't see the reason to go over every single fight that would happen in said Tournament of Power. We also don't want to sit here for that long. And besides, we're following the manga continuity, and in the manga continuity, most of the participants get knocked out within the first few minutes. So, you know, it's very different from the anime. But let's go over our team, shall we? Our first team member is obviously Pishi. She's the strongest person in this continuity. At this point, she's learned how to access her SDD form, Saiyan Drive Divinity, making her twice as strong as completed Super Saiyan Blue. I don't think I've ever specified this or not, but yes, when I refer to Super Saiyan Blue, I refer to completed Super Saiyan Blue because this is the manga continuity. Kaioken and kind of evolution don't exist in this continuity. Next is Goku and Vegeta, who would have completed Super Saiyan Blue. There's not much to say here. They're likely a little stronger than in canon, but not a noticeable amount. Then we have Neptune, Block, Noir, and Vert, who all have access to their next form. The transformation multiplier is equivalent to Super Saiyan Blue, or completed Super Saiyan Blue. However, their base forms are weaker than the Saiyans, which would, by proxy, make them weaker than completed Super Saiyan Blue users. After that, we have Gohan and Trunks. While they don't have much actual combat experience, with Cooler being their first, and by their first, I mean Gohan's first actual villain, they are far stronger than most of the people in their universe. Gohan being a Super Saiyan 4, and Trunks having his ultimate form. He was slacking off quite a bit, but after training in the Time Chamber upgraded by a now young Kami, he and Gohan got some last minute training to throw off the rust, and get stronger, of course. That brings us to member number 10, our final member, which would be Plutia/Iris Heart. Unfortunately, she is by far the weakest on this team, because HDD is equivalent to Super Saiyan. Gohan and Trunks are relatively even as Super Saiyan 4/Ultimate, which is over 100 times stronger than Super Saiyan 3. And then everyone else is Super Saiyan Blue level or above. So, yeah, Iris Heart is by far the least valuable member of this team. However, she is far stronger than Piccolo. Rest in peace, Green Man. Maybe next What If. And technically, Raditz and Nappa are Super Saiyan 3, as Super Saiyan 3s, are stronger than Iris Heart, but they're ugly. And Raditz got a heart attack. I'm just kidding. But it's Dragon Ball Super X Neptunia, so I wanted to put the Neptunia characters in. I mean, you saw them fight Zamasu. Don't blame me, okay? Blame you know what? Blame the Discord server. Yeah. Blame the Discord server, which is in the comment section down below. Description. So you should totally go into the description, join the server, and go tell off the server for not introducing Raditz and Nappa, your favorite characters, in the Tournament of Power. You should definitely do that. Anyway, enough of my rambles. Let's keep going. Starting off, the CPU would go off into one group, Trunks and Gohan into a group, Pishi and Plutia into a group, and then Goku and Vegeta are like, nah, I'm gonna do my own thing. So, let's go over the most important matchups for every group. Our first fight that we are going to be covering is Pishi and Plutia versus Universe 2's Ribrianne Kakunsa. I don't know how to say her name. The hot cat lady, okay? That's who I'm talking about. The hot cat lady. And Rosie. They mentioned that, Plutia and Pishi are really cute for an evil universe who threatened to get the rest erased. Plutia would rather they just didn't fight. I mean, she'd rather be going to take a nap right now. But Pishi, on the other hand, with no provocation, starts blasting. She uses Vegeta's technique. It's Mostly Pishi fighting, to be honest. I mean, Plutia is trying, but Plutia in her normal form is not much of a fighter. She can hit hard, but she's mostly just swinging around a plushie, or I don't know, a rock. I think the CPU can materialize weapons, so their weapons are allowed, but I don't know what Plutia would be doing in this situation. You just have to use your imagination. Eventually, the trio transforms, and in response, Pishi and Plutia use HDD. Been a while since you saw Pishi do that, huh? When's the last time we saw Yellowheart? Like, episode 6 of DBZX? Anyway, the magical girls and HDD are on Super Saiyan level, give or take, and thus, even though Iris is actually helpful, they're on the back foot. Yellowheart gets pouty because her personality still changes and glows brightly, giving a shout as she powers up into her SDD form. Now in SDD, everyone is shocked aside from Universe 6. No one knew they could access God Key since the 7 vs 11 tournament is only in the anime. SDD Pishi then does some overdramatic moves and sends the three girls flying off the ring. And the two would then return to their normal forms and head off to fight elsewhere. Goku battles off against Universe 3. He starts having a hard time. It is literally the whole team targeting Goku. Goku turns to a Super Saiyan because he's being overwhelmed, but eventually Maji Tayo gets a hold of him. Goku is then forced to transform into a Super Saiyan 3. Remember, Goku also has a tail in this What If, so learning the transformation from Gohan, Raditz, Nappa, etc. wasn't very hard for him. I mean, he learned it just for shits and giggles. With Super Saiyan 3, he starts to foderize the Universe 3. Even the mightiest Kato Persa stood no chance. Eventually, they're forced to combine into the mighty Ami Laza. Unfortunately for him, though, this is the manga version where he's weak as hell. So Goku just quickly transforms into Super Saiyan Blue and takes him out of the arena with one kick, revealing that he too can use God Ki, and taking out Universe 3 all at once. As Gohan and Trunks take out a few fodder members of Universe 4, they are assisted by Universe 6's Kaba, followed by two females. Kaba confirms if Gohan is a Saiyan too, and Gohan tells him that both him and Trunks are half Saiyans, Gohan being a Saiyan CPU, and Trunks being a Saiyan human. Kaba would then comment that he was surprised Universe 7 had Saiyans and CPUs as well. What were they going to say next? They also have Namekians? Gohan would then be confused. What did he mean by CPU 2? Khalifa, though, quickly dismisses this question before he can get an answer, and asks if Trunks and Gohan are ready to fight. And of course, they accept. Now, there's technically a bit of a plot hole here of how he got Caulifla and Kale to join the Tournament of Power without Super Saiyan. But, I don't know. Let's just say he bribed them somehow. I don't know. At first, they're all pretty even, until Kaba tells them to stop holding back. Gohan and Trunks would then both turn to Super Saiyan, a form that technically Kaba has not seen, because he only saw 2, 3, 4. He didn't see the first level. And they begin to wipe the floor with those two. Kale would then interfere, because in the manga she's actually a super secret badass, but was actually quickly spin-kicked by Trunks and sent away. Even if Kale is a lot stronger in the manga, she has no chance against Trunks as a Super Saiyan. Unless Kale were to transform into her legendary form after both Kaba and Caulifla were knocked out of the tournament with Ki Blast. Trunks and Gohan are quickly overwhelmed by Kale's transformation, quickly getting thrown around and overpowered. Gohan transforms to a Super Saiyan 4, while Trunks turns to his ultimate form. It's then that the tables turn, as Kale isn't able to keep up with the power of both of them. Despite this, Kale still lets off an uncontrollable amount of power, even knocking out some of the other contestants in the process, though no one from Universe 7. Gohan and Trunks combine a Gallic Gun with the Kamehameha for engulfing and defeating the legendary Super Saiyan. So we don't get Kefla in this, but I didn't think it made sense for it to happen in this continuity. So, again, we'll move on. As Vegeta takes out even more Universe 4 fodder, he approaches him and wants to settle the score. Vegeta transforms to a Super Saiyan God and says that he's got stronger. As the two begin the fight, though, stops time, hitting Vegeta multiple times. Oh god, we're going to be saying time and hit a lot again, aren't we? Vegeta falls to a knee, and Hit explains that not only has he been getting stronger, he's learned how to fight better and improve his time skip to 1 second. Meaning that even though Vegeta is still stronger by a bit, he is unable to defeat Hit now. Vegeta would then laugh and explain that he never went all out in the last tournament, and transforms into his completed Super Saiyan Blue, revealing that there are 3 members and Tournament of Power of Universe 7 who can use God Ki.
As Vegeta transforms into Super Saiyan Blue, just like Pishi and Goku, his power draws the attention of the others. Before anyone can interfere, Hit and Vegeta begin their clash. With the power boost of 50 times or more, Vegeta is keeping up much better than before, and is in fact overwhelming Hit again. You see, here on this channel, we use something called the Goal Boost. I made a brief video where I explained the phenomenon, but basically, since Hit was only aware of Super Saiyan God Vegeta's power, and only the brief amount he was able to see since he can't sense God Ki, Hit is completely unprepared for this explosion of power. Vegeta lets out a strong right hook into Hit's gut through his time skip, and then releases a large Ki blast which knocks Hit out of the tournament. Although it's not like Vegeta came out of it unscathed, he turns back to his normal form and goes to take a breather. Meanwhile, our group of CPU are confronted by the trio to danger. It's 4-3-2, but as Noir is about to boast, Neptune up and disappears from the arena. Noir yells out, annoyed at Neptune, but whatever, it doesn't matter. The 6 of them start fighting. Vert fights Basil, Noir fights Lavender, and Bergamo fights Blanc, which in my opinion, that last one is probably the most accurate matchup. Meanwhile, Neptune jumps around some debris. Why is debris spelled with an S? That's spelled debris, but it's debris. It's debris. I don't like English. I'm gonna leave this in the video. Anyway, looking for a power level, she senses that something that catches her attention. She then receives a Ki blast, which Neptune hastily dodges into a backflip. To her attention comes 2 individuals our Neptunia fans should know fairly well: Uzume and Maho. The 2 girls are impressed Neptune dodged, and more impressed that there are 5 whole CPU in another universe. Neptune would correct them that there was technically 7, given that she had 2 kids, but how did the other CPU know that? Anyway, how did they come to exist in the first place? The 2 girls would explain they're not quite sure how it all works, but they were born from the Dragon Balls on their planet. Neptune nods along and mentions that there must only be 2 of them because SMDBZX didn't want to fill the whole Universe 6 with either fake CPU or pretending CPU candidates who are acting as main CPUs. Because in actuality, they're the CPU candidates, but we'd have to do a lot of pretending, and I don't feel like doing that. Which was true, but fuck you, Neptune, for breaking the 4th wall. Meanwhile, with Noir, she's kicked back and bounces off a boulder, coughing as she notices her skin turning purple. She's confused on what's going on, and Lavender would laugh loudly, monologuing that he has poisonous breath and fist that will tear their opponent up from the inside out. If she doesn't get help soon, it'll be fatal. Noir grits her teeth and sits up, turning straight into her next form and proclaiming that she'll just have to beat the shit out of Lavender before that happens. Blanc goes HDD, however she's noticing the more she fights Bergamo, the stronger he seems to get. Whiteheart sneezes Bergamo hard, following up by a flurry of strong punches and kicks, and then summons her axe and slams it into him, sending him flying. The Universe 11 Kai would call that she should be disqualified. That was against using weapons was against the rules. However, the CPU's weapons were made out of their own ki, materializing it into physical objects, and thus it was not cheating in the same way that those with wings could fly. Speaking of which, HDD also gives them wings, in case you've forgotten. So, Whiteheart is able to dash forward with flight and continue to beat on Bergamo. However, the more she hits him, the bigger and stronger he would get, to the point where he sends Whiteheart flying into a boulder. She spits out some blood and wipes her lips, calling him a, and I quote, furry-ass motherfucking bastard, End quote. Before using one of her only 2 ideas left. As Vert fights Basil, she feels everyone else stepping up, even though Noir was dropping like a ball down a pair of stairs. Vert transitions into Greenheart, and Basil is quickly overwhelmed. It would seem that, aside from not only being able to sense ki, Basil wasn't very special. Basil would then snicker and say that he actually was special, and he pulls out a small fruit and eats it. Suddenly, Basil's power skyrockets. Spears would yell that this was a power-up item and that Universe 9 was cheating, but Zenon thought it was cool, so he allowed it. Now, this is an anime concept that didn't appear in the manga, but, you know, I thought it'd make things more interesting, so, you know, we're just gonna let it slide this time? Okay? Alright, cool. Greenheart was quickly overwhelmed, having to block a flurry of blows quickly, and then sent flying back. Greenheart recovers in mid-air by flying up. However, Basil simply kicks some large ki blasts at her. Greenheart puts up her block, tanking the attacks, before diving down and slicing with her spear. The weapon narrowly missed, and Basil kicked her in the spine, making her yell out in pain as she was sent flying into a boulder. Basil quickly jumped on top of another boulder, there's a lot of boulders in this episode, and laughed maniacally as he began winning. But then Greenheart powers explode as she turned into Next Green. It was at this moment he knew. He fucked up. Meanwhile, with Next Black, she's still beating the crap out of Lavender. As she does though, she feels more pain in her body and stops. Next Black falls to her hands and knees, coughing up blood and purple liquid. However, she's done so much damage to Lavender, he was out cold. Seeing her vision begin to fail, she gets up and grabs Lavender by the tail and drags him to the edge. Every step she feels her power dropping. Her legs are wobbly, her vision blurs more and more. Just as she reaches the edge, her power wears out. She turns back to Noir, falling. However, Noir lands just on the edge. Half of her body is hanging off, while the other half is still on. Vision begins to fade to black for a few moments, but then she weakly stands back up, getting just enough strength to drag both her and Lavender off the edge. However, as Lavender is dragged off with her, they're obviously both disqualified, meaning Noir is the first member of Universe 7 to be disqualified. But, considering the first member of Universe 7 lasted longer than like 50% of the tournament, things are still looking good. Whiteheart, seeing as the most powerful technique in Dragon Ball didn't work, transforms into Next White. And although his power is increasing dramatically, Bergamo cannot keep up with the strong blows Next White is hitting him with. Eventually, she cups her hands and fires a point-blank Kamehameha to launch the wolf out of the arena, before turning back to normal. She sees a large flash in a nearby area, which was Next Purple, and heads that way. I feel like I should just say the same thing about Next Green, since Basil doesn't stand a chance, but why is Next Purple appearing? Well, let's talk about that. Well, after their lovely introductions, Neptune begins to fight the two Universe 6 CPU. They were both roughly even in power, so Neptune was having a hard time. She was even materializing for two swords, but that still wasn't giving her the edge. After blocking a double kick and backflipping away from the Ki Blast, Neptune activated HDD, transforming into Purple Heart. Purple Heart would then brag, saying that even if they worked together, they couldn't beat her like this. Uzume and Maho then activate HDD, turning themselves into Orange Heart and Grey Sister. Now, this is kind of a plot hole, kind of not, because, you know, Grey Sister is not a CPU, she's a CPU candidate, but CPU candidates kind of can't exist, since in this series, CPU do not rule nations, and so there wouldn't be a candidate, you know, for anything. But for the sake of the lore, we're going to be calling Grey Sister Grey Heart. And I'll just remind you, she reappears in the future. Good? Great. So Purple, Orange, and Grey Heart would start fighting in the sky. Purple Heart, however, would be overwhelmed very quickly. During the fight, she gets distracted by watching Blackheart get tackled off stage, but is punished for this by being sent flying back into the ground. When the other CPU land, Purple Heart stands up and smirks. Orange and Gray Heart say how Neptunia is like so totally awesome, and that if she was in a gacha game, she'd totes be a UR. But then Purple Heart asks, what will you do about the next transformation? Pun intended. Before turning into Next Purple. As Next Purple appears, she quickly overwhelms the other two CPU. It's shortly after that where Blanc and Vert rejoin Next Purple. The two CPU grit their teeth and huff, as they will reveal their trump card. Next Purple raises an eyebrow. Can they send the next as well? Because even if they could, Blanc and Vert can do it as well. It will be a 3v2. But despite this, the Universe 6 CPU seem confident. Orange and Gray Heart, which is Gray's sister in the canon Neptunian continuity, come together. They declare that they will use their secret weapon to defeat them. The CPU of our dimension are confused when the Universe 6 Saiyans pull out a secret weapon, the Batara earrings. However, our CPU don't know what those are. Remember, this story, fusion, has never been done before. As the two CPUs fuse together, the other CPUs are completely shocked as they were not expecting that to happen with earrings. This time, Beers would yell out that they were cheating, but the other thing thought it was cool, so they didn't give a shit. And here, I'm gonna break the fourth wall a little bit. Look, listen, I originally wrote this because I felt like Champa would still try the strategy. However, upon further thinking on this strategy still means Next Purple is kicking her ass. I really want to say it would be different and, dramatic and stuff, but in my what ifs, I do the best of A plus B times 100. Since HDD is equal to Super Saiyan, this would make it a 10,000 times boost. In comparison, Super Saiyan God is a 40,000 times boost in my what ifs, and Next is comparable to Completed Blue, so it's likely a 2 million multiplier at least. So, yeah, she's getting her ass kicked, despite powering up and doing a much better job. It's just not enough. As the battlefield begins to quiet down, a member of Universe 10 is knocked out of the ring by Toppo. Universe 7 groups back together and faces the majority of Universe 11. Toppo, Dispo, Jiren, and a few fodder members that you can't be bothered to remember. Neither can I. There's 15 minutes left. Goku and Vegeta turn into Super Saiyan Blue, going to fight Jiren. But Toppo cuts off Vegeta and tells him that he'd have to deal with him. Fine by Goku, he prefer 1v1s anyway. Gohan and Trunks are caught off guard by Dispo's speed. Yellow and Iris Heart fight off the fodder. And since the rest of the CPU just had a pretty hard fight against the Universe 10 members, or 12, whatever the Trio D Danger are from, I can't remember. They decided to sit back and take a break, relax, gather their breath a little bit. They just got done fighting, not to mention the Universe 6 CPU. However, Goku is quickly getting his shit rocked. Even though he's stronger than he is in canon, well, base to base at least, he takes note that he's never been hit this hard before and sent blind. The two fighters appear as after images. Goku would get some distance only for Jiren to immediately be in his tail, barely dodging strikes. Just the force of his blows alone made Goku shake. Goku would do a backflip to try to hit Jiren, and even though he missed, he got a little bit of distance. Although he barely had time to jump away onto some pillars as he threw some ki blast. Jiren didn't even register the attacks as he grabbed his foot and slammed him into the arena. Goku then powers up further and kicks Jiren off, but only a single second is given to him to breathe as Jiren re-engages in hand-to-hand combat. Vegeta is caught in shock by Jiren's raw power, and the fact Goku was on the back foot so easily. But Toppo makes him regret it by blasting him with an energy ball. Vegeta catches the attack and then throws it away, quickly getting into a scuffle. But it's caught by Toppo's speed despite his size. Vegeta thought he'd be a power-type fighter and was wrong. Vegeta would fire a Gallic gun to counter his Justice Beam, or whatever the attack's called. Vegeta would then give some prideful answer as Toppo asked why he's fighting in the tournament, and explain that Vegeta is the strongest in the multiverse. Toppo would then scoff and tell him that Jiren's the strongest mortal in all 12 universes, and since the yellow one is stronger than Vegeta, that would make him the third wheel. This would piss Vegeta off, and they would continue to fight. Yellowheart sees her dad getting her ass kicked, and she tries to go help him.
but is cut off by the other Pride Troopers. She powers up into STD, her Saiyan Drive Divinity form, catching Jiren's attention momentarily, before she quickly knocks away all the other Pride Troopers in her way and charges at Jiren, leaving Irisheart alone to fight the majority of Universe 11. But the resting CPU would quickly activate their own HDD and quickly help their friend. Pishi clashes with Jiren. Everyone nearby pauses as the strongest of the two universes go head-to-head. But although Jiren respects her strength and resolve to help her father, even her power isn't enough. Pishi does barely anything better than Goku, and while Goku recovers from his ass-kicking, though her ability to fly gives her the advantage in the air, it isn't enough. Pishi would power up and fire a full-force Kamehameha, but Jiren would take the attack with a guard. Pishi huffs and puffs as the dust clears, but before the god-he-cladded CPU could celebrate, she felt a strong and painful punch to her gut. Jiren had moved at an unseeable speed, and no one saw him move until his fist connected. And then, the gut punch was so hard, she reverted back to her base form. He compliment Pish on the force of her attack, before picking her up by the hair and putting his hand in her stomach, and blasting her at point-blank range. Pishi yells in pain as she's sent flying through the arena, clothes being torn and skin cut, bruised, bloodied, going through various debris and whatnot as she tries to reflect the blast, but she simply just doesn't have the power, especially in her base form. As Pishi is sent towards the edge, Irisheart flies in and tackles Pishi out of the way of the attack, just to knock Pishi out of said attack. But unfortunately, the position she was in, she wasn't able to block the attack properly herself, and is set off the edge with a massive explosion. Irisheart can't fly up in time before she's rung out officially, and is sent into the stands where she reverts back to Plutia and passes out in pain and tiredness. But let's be honest, it's surprising Plutia didn't fall asleep already. Gohan watches in horror. He feels his rage building up, but the Dispo tells him he should pay attention to himself. Gohan's energy spikes. He powers up and lands a nasty combo, ending with Dispo flying into the air, and then fires a ×10 Kamehameha and knocking him out of the arena. As Gohan calms down, Gohan and Trunks decide to split. Trunks would help his dad, while Gohan would help his own. And thus, the two split up to help said parents. Vegeta is matched by Toppo. Neither are gaining ground against one another. Out of nowhere, a Buster Cannon comes out and hits Toppo, blindsiding him. Vegeta takes this opportunity to land a strong uppercut, knocking him away with a kick. Trunks tells his dad he's here to help, but Vegeta tells him to stay out of it. Trunks would then tell Vegeta that they need to finish this guy off and help with Jiren, and, well, Trunks is right. Even Vegeta had to admit, Jiren was a strong son of a bitch. Vegeta gives in, and the father-son duo team up to fight. In the manga, Toppo can't use the God of Destruction form, and thus the father-son duo would win with the father-son Gallic Gun quite handedly, as the power gap would now be much larger. While all of that was going on, the CPU beat the rest of Universe 11, and was now in their next forms, jumping Jiren. Next White hit Jiren as hard as she could, but Jiren would hit harder. Next Green would use her amazing speed to get the surprise on Jiren, but Jiren was faster and hit her hard. Next Purple would try her critical edge combo attack, but Jiren blocked the first strike and grabbed her by the leg, spinning her like a Beyblade before slamming her into an incoming Gohan. The group would all power up, Vert firing a Goddess Destructive Wave, a modification of Piccolo's Demon version, Blanc shooting Vegeta's Big Bang attack, an attack she picked up from him, and Neptune shooting a Kamehameha, while Gohan shoots a red ×10 Kamehameha. Although it was the weakest of the attacks due to the power difference between him and the CPU. Jiren tenses and powers up himself, blocking all of the Kia Blast at the same time. 3.5 CPU then charge at him again. Gohan gets backhanded hard enough to knock him unconscious. Green and White get their weapons blocked before Jiren does that one eye attack thing. You know, when he like blinks at people and they just gets like flying. Yeah, he does that to Next Purple, sending her flying. Jiren would then knee White in the gut, grab her by the face, and slam her head into Green Hearts so hard that they cause a crater in the catching arena. Poor Vert, her skull must be hurting a lot. Vegeta charges in, telling him to fight. Vegeta would smirk as he manages to dodge a few of the punches that he saw from examining Jiren's attacks, and then land a punch to his abs. Trunks would jump over Vegeta and drop kick Jiren in the chin, before the two of them sent him flying back. Jiren would launch a flurry of punches so fast that Trunks couldn't even see them, and Vegeta had to block. Jiren did a double lariat, sending the two flying back. Vegeta bounces off some debris, while Trunks bounces off the ground until he's left barely hanging off the side of the arena. Trunks would crawl his way back up, but then immediately blasted off as Jiren called him trash. Vegeta's astonished, but then enraged. Meanwhile, Goku checks on Pishi and Gohan. Pishi's pretty beat up, but relatively okay. She's able to fight. Gohan is barely fluttering awake, but he manages to drag himself to his feet. Goku tells Gohan to take it easy. He's under a lot of stress. Gohan would try to object, but then Goku reaffirms, telling him to stand down. He's gotten a lot stronger in these last few years, but he's out of his league. This hurts Gohan to his core, but with 10 minutes left, maybe he could just outlast the timer. And yeah, to recap, in the span of the last 5 minutes, all but Jiren of Universe 11 have been knocked out of the arena, including Pluty and Trunks. Purple, White, and Green tried to attack Jiren again. He's actually caught off guard as they three performed perfect synergy. They trained together for a couple hundred, if not 1,000 years plus, after all. Free CPU eventually get beaten away again as they slip up for just a split second. Jiren took that opportunity to beat them. White especially was getting on his nerves, so he hit her with a flurry of strong and fast blows. And although she's the most durable of the CPU, she's sent flying away with an uppercut so hard she goes unconscious and back to block. Goku jumps up and Super Saiyan Blue catches her before placing her down with Gohan. Once again, now in her normal form. Jiren's going to be out for the rest of the tournament. However, their concern is cut when Vegeta powers up.
Impossible to defeat you! Don't make me laugh! You claim I'm no threat to you. I assume that means you won't act like a coward and try to avoid this blast! Bring it. Final blast!
Vegeta's final flash was impressive. Everyone was shocked. It was the most powerful attack seen in the tournament so far. However, it wasn't enough, and Jiren manages to defeat her. Oh, he's not knocked out of the ring, simply knocked out of blue for a bit. As everyone fights the OP bald alien, Shin comes to a realization. And as the CPU and half Saiyans are prepared to get knocked out, there was a bright surprise. A very bright surprise.
Kakarot! How do you know this fusion will be enough to stop him?
I don't know for sure, but I know it's the best chance we have of saving the Earth.
Here, give it to me! What are you waiting for? Give it now!
You bet!
Come on! You said right here, right?
That's right, Vegeta.
All right, it's on!
Great! Thanks, Vegeta.
That's right, we have the introduction of Vegeta. Universe 6 could do it, why couldn't 7? And to say that Jiren is cooked is an understatement. This is manga Vegeta. In the manga, base Vegeta blasted Zamasu in half, who was beating Blue Goku and Vegeta nearly effortlessly. So, yeah, Jiren's fucked. no matter how much he powers up, he can't beat Super Vegito. And if he can beat Super Vegito, I really doubt he could beat Super Saiyan 2. But if by some miracle he could keep up with Super Saiyan 2 Vegito, Vegito could just turn Super Saiyan 3. Speaking of which, when they fuse together, there's only a minute left in the tournament. So, after a very brief struggle, Vegito turns into Super Saiyan 3 and uses a final Kamehameha to knock the warrior out of the arena. And with that, he would also brag and be like, by the way, I was holding back, and piss Jiren off. But after the very humble bragging, everyone would be wished back to existence, and tournament would come to an end. Although Vegito would have to wait to unfuse. They could, I guess they could spar with Pishi and Gohan. Until then, I don't know. They'd figure something out.